This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, guys. So last weekend we had the introduction session, right? During the introduction session, we actually discussed the basics of cloud, where we talked about what exactly is cloud and what benefits it is bringing to the table. And we discussed about the different service model that make up the cloud, right? So there are different ways that a service provider can offer the service. They can offer it either as an infrastructure as a service, or they can offer it as a platform as a service, or they can also give the complete software as a service, right? So, and also we discussed about how cloud can be implemented and utilized. It can be deployed for a private organization called private cloud, or it can be uh, a public cloud where all the general public can go and use, or you can also have a mix and match like a hybrid cloud environment. And also we have some kind of community cloud where we go and use it for specific organization purpose. Okay. And we also discussed about what makes the characteristics of the cloud. We discussed about this. And at the end of the session, we discussed about some of the disadvantages of cloud. And other than that, we also discussed like how different service provider are doing in the cloud market, and what is the cloud market share with different vendors and all those things. So these are all some marketing gimmicks which we discussed, but it's good to know. But the important aspects, the foundation is understanding the cloud better, right? And after that, we discussed about what exactly is Azure platform and what exactly is the benefits, comparing it with other cloud. What are the benefits that Azure brings to the table? We also discussed about the Azure geographical presence, like what are the different locations that Azure is providing services, and how we can access it. And also we discussed about what are the different compliance. For example, we talked about there are some regional compliance, there are some global compliance like ISO, there are some industry vertical compliance like PCI, HIPAA, and all those things. Then I think we completed the session by discussing about support plans, like what are the 4 different support plans, like basic, developer, enterprise, and yeah. So we discussed about that support plan options. So today we'll be getting hands-on into Azure platform. Okay, so it will be a practical session from today onwards, and we'll go and explore by creating resources, by creating subscription. So we'll start working on the Azure platform now. Okay, so any questions from anyone before we start? Okay, I'll mute all the lines. Okay, so let's start with how to create an account in Azure platform, and then how to create different entities which can help you to create resources in Azure. Okay, so when we say account, see for example, if you are planning to take a um, subscription from a telecom provider, you need to get a number assigned. You need to get an account created in their database in order for you to choose the support plan. Okay, so if you have a support plan active or inactive, you will still have the account active for some time, right? So this account which we are talking about, it can be created for a particular individual single person. It can be for an individual, or it can be created for a particular program. When I say program, some organization might want to migrate their resources from on-prem, or they want to test out some applications in the cloud. So it can be a program or a project, and that will be owned by a organization, right? So account can be created for either individual, or it can be a uh, organization based account. And in general, whenever we talk about account, it's generally an email ID. Okay, we need an email ID corresponding to the name of the account, and this email ID can be any account. It can be a Microsoft account like Hotmail, or Microsoft itself, or it can be a Gmail account, or it can be a GitHub account. So there are different providers you can use the email account from. Okay, even you can use your live ID or Hotmail ID, all those things. And the next thing, in order to create an account, you generally need to have a credit or debit card. Okay, so people ask like why we will need to give this. Okay, so there are two things. Okay, the first thing is there, right, these days are very modern, and people are using bots for everything. So they want to identify that it's a real people, okay, or it's a real organization and not bots. When I say bots, like there are a lot of robots, right? So which can go and start creating multiple accounts and just make the Azure platform unstable. So they don't want the bots to create some account in order to recognize, or in order to kind of identify the individual or identify the organization. They are asking for this detail, and Microsoft will never charge you without your consensus. Okay, so they're not going to charge anything from this account, but for account validation, but for verification, for example, even if you go and create a Uber, or if you go and create some account in a specific portal, they generally go and do whether the card is valid, whether you have the account active. So what they generally do is they generally charge 1 USD outside of India, and in India they charge 2 Indian rupees to make sure that the account is active. Okay, and it will be like a temporary charge, and after 3 business days, after 2 or 3 business days, they will recredit that 2 Indian rupees or $1 that they have taken from your credit or debit card. Okay, so ideally, earlier they also have support for ready credit and pre-credit and all those virtual cards, but nowadays Microsoft does not allow you to use any kind of virtual cards, because it became a business 4 5 years back. People started selling virtual credit card with, for example, 50 rupees or 100 rupees. If you pay, they will give you a kind of virtual number and virtual name and all those things. So it used to support earlier, but then Microsoft stopped support for it. And even when you use the credit or debit card, it's primarily like they actually look for credit card as much as possible. Even within the debit card, okay, you know that there are some banking organizations that they provide ready credit. For example, Citibank globally, Standard Chartered, or like in India, like HDFC. So these banks, they provide you ready credit in your debit card itself. It can be used as a kind of credit card also. Okay, so which means even those debit accounts, even those savings account, can be used for account creation. So it's not that only credit is supported, even some type of debit cards are also supported. Okay, you can use your credit card or debit card. And as I told, Microsoft don't charge anything without your consensus. Okay, 1 minute, guys. I'm not sure if you missed to get the invite. Okay, 1 second. Let me just quickly forward it. Give me a second, please. Sorry about that. Okay. Looks like a couple of people are joining to hold. Okay. Okay, let them join. Okay, so as I said, here Microsoft is not going to charge you anything without your consensus or without your approval. Okay, they are not going to charge anything. So you have to pay the bill with, I mean, you don't have to kind of, it will not get auto debited unless you have selected that option. So it is never charged to you automatically. Okay, never charged automatically. Okay, so you need a email ID to have an account. You need to have a phone number in order to have an account with Microsoft Azure. Okay, you need to have a phone number. Okay, this is again for any multi-factor authentication or to receive any kind of PIN numbers. So you need to have a phone number, or it can be a mobile number, in fact. And in some locations, they also ask for permanent account number, PAN ID, but it's not a mandatory thing. It's a kind of optional entry which you can fill or which you need not fill in. Okay, and they also ask for your details, like your full name, first name, last name, and you have to fill in all the details of the account holder. Okay, and you have to provide your address of your individual or the organization. Okay, so once you do all these things, okay, you also get some kind of verification done. So they will verify by your mobile number, the phone number. Okay, and also they will verify your card, verification by card. And once after they verify your card and phone number, your address will be created. Okay, let's go and do that. Okay, and okay, just quick update, quick touch point here. So we are starting to do things practically here. So today we are starting with creating an Azure account, and post which we'll be going and creating subscriptions and other entities which is needed for creating the resources. So what I have explained so far, Azure account can be created for an individual or it can be created for the organization. And in order to create an account successfully, you need to have these things. You need to have your identity, address, phone number, credit card, and email address. So credit card is not mandatory, even debit cards can be used. And once after you create the account, then comes the other items like subscription, management group, and so on. I'll explain that shortly. So who would like to go and create a account now? So you just need an existing email ID to create an account. So you have to log into portal.azure.com. Okay, or else you can also go to azure. Sorry, let me just go back one step. Okay, you can go to azure.microsoft.com and you can start there. So it gives you an option to click on the free account. Okay, you can either go to azure.microsoft.com and you can try Azure for free, or else you can go to portal.azure.com. So these are the two options where you can go and create an account. You can either go to portal.account. This is the single sign-on portal for all specific needs, and we can also use azure.microsoft.com, and you can start exploring microsoft.com for free. Okay, when I say free, okay, you can go and create an account, and after which you'll be getting $200 credit, okay, which you can use for first 30 days or until the credit is available. It can be two ways, okay. So you can use it for $200. If you are using the $200 in 1 week, the free account will expire. Or if you are going and not utilizing it, this $200 will be valid for 30 days. Okay, after which this particular free tier will get expired. Okay, it can be because of credit expiry, or it can be after the number of days. Okay, free trial will be expired, and after which you have to go and create a pay-as-you-go account. When I say pay-as-you-go account, that is the normal utility model that we have in cloud, right? So you can go and use it and pay for it. Okay, that's the next model, but we need to start the practice or your lab by trying it for free. Okay, so let's try Azure for free, and it takes us to the screen where it says azuremicrosoft.com/free. So you need to understand what exactly you are going to build in the cloud and what are the different resources that you are entitled to do. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, definitely we are going to run applications for the business or individual requirement. So at the end, it is going to be the application that is going to be ran on the cloud, right? So in order to do that, you need to understand few things here. Okay, so building an account, creating an account is fine. And after which, what are the different things that you need to explore, or what are the different things that are available for you? Okay, so now we are talking about commercial cloud. When I say commercial cloud is available for all general public. Okay, so whatever we are discussing, it refers to the Azure public cloud, which is commercial cloud, and we are talking about that. There are other specific regional cloud. For example, there is Azure government, specifically for government agencies. We have Azure China. This is specifically for China people, and we have Azure Germany. So these are all not commercial cloud. These are all specific for a community or specific for a region. Okay, so you cannot go and create resources on these non-commercial cloud. Okay, when I say commercial cloud, whatever like the portal.azure.com or the azure.microsoft.com, that is the portal. Okay, so you need to understand that there are some popular free services which are free for 12 months. It's the same in AWS also. Okay, it's like there are some free services even after 30 days for the next 11 months. After the 30 days, after the first month, for the next 11 months, you can explore some of the free services. When I say free services, okay, after 30 days, what happens for the 11 month, sorry, after 30 days, for the next 11 months, you will be having access to all the popular free services, which is free of cost. Okay. So when I say free services, you can explore these ones. Okay. You can go and create virtual machines for 750 hours, and you can create only B1S virtual machine. So it's not that you can go and create everything. So you have to create only the popular and free services. Okay. You can go and create 250 GB of SQL database free of cost. You can go and create 5 GB of storage free of cost. So whatever listed here with tag 12 months, for an example, these are all free for 12 months. Okay, so you can go and create some essential compute, storage, database, and network, and it has some restrictions. Okay, when I say restrictions, you are entitled to create a specific type or a size. Okay, if you go beyond that type or if you go beyond that size, you will be charged. For example, if you are creating non B1S virtual machine, you have to pay for it. If you are creating more than 250 GB of SQL database and you are doing more than 10 database transactions, okay, you have to pay for additional amount. So these things are applicable for first 12 months, whereas the ones listed below, okay, so these ones like the Cosmos database, the app services, the web services from Azure, Azure Functions, Azure Event Grade, these are all always free. So far, Microsoft has not charged these services. There are two ways you have to think about it. Maybe there are not much customers who are utilizing it. One way that is. The other way around, they want the customer to explore it for free and they want them to understand the features and functionalities. Okay, there are two ways you can think about it. But some services, for example, app services are definitely used heavily, but maybe not the event grid. Okay, so they want the product to be explored by multiple peoples, and as of now they are giving it for always free, but there are some restrictions. You can only run app services or web services or mobile app for with 1 GB storage. If you are adding more capacity, then you have to pay for it. Okay, so for some businesses, if you're starting a travel portal or if you're creating a portal where you want to sell some products and so on, with 1 GB capacity of images and some web apps, you should be able to run it for always free. Okay, so you can smartly use Azure for free, or if you want to use it for business, better to go for better model. Okay, so there are some always free services that are available. So it's not always, but sometimes after maybe like 2 months upfront notice, Microsoft will say this is going to become a chargeable service, and you might have to convert it, or you might have to change it to a different pricing model. So there are some services which are always free. If you want to explore them, you can go and click on this see all free services. So these are all always free. If you want to get some personalized recommendation from Microsoft, it is always free. And if you want to get some anomaly detection that to be enabled, it is free for 12 months. So you get to understand what are the different services and which one is free for always, which one is free for 12 months. So you have to be really careful if you are doing it personally. Okay, you cannot just go and create something and incur cost. And as I said clearly, they are not going to charge you anything. You have to pay for what you have consumed. Okay, so to understand this better, you can go and check the azure.microsoft.com/free, and you will be able to understand which are the services that are always free. Okay, so any questions so far from anyone? Let's go and create an account now. So who would like to create an account? So just creating an account doesn't need any credit card. Yeah, go ahead.
This is my one quick question. The
Yes, Manish.
750 hours is like it's quite understandable. Like for the 12 months, it's free. Is there any limitation of number of machines being created? Like
Correct. See, the more you create, it gets shared. For example, they are saying that you can create Azure virtual machines for 750 hours, right? So which means, let me tell you that. Okay, so popular free services, and let me explain that. Okay, so for example, here, let's talk about virtual machines. Okay, yeah. So 750 hours, and if you are creating, for example, let's say I've created 10 virtual machines of B1S, which means this 750 hours has to be divided by that 10 VMs, and each VM can run for 75 hours free of cost. Okay, that's the way it gets calculated. So you can run multiple machines, but this 750 hours is the running limit or the running hours. There is a limit in terms of the number of hours here. Okay, so they are not allowing you to run it for always, and there is a instance size that are also restricted. Okay, so there are two restrictions in terms of number of hours and in terms of the instance type. Okay, if you're for an example, if you're running 5 machines, 750 hours divided by 5 machines. So after that particular number of hours, you will be charged.
Okay,
Is it
got
okay?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so okay, so who is ready to create an account? When I say create an account, you just need an email ID. You can be a Gmail ID or a Microsoft ID or whatever. I'm not going to ask beyond that. Like, just I'll show you how to do it. So just go here and click on the start free.
Stan, Narayan
Yeah,
here. So
yes,
for
Narayan.
organization, what is the requirement? So is it the same thing or it's going to
Yeah,
be a
we'll get to
different?
understand that. Yeah, we'll get to understand that now. Okay, so
Okay.
for yeah, even see that that's what I told you, right? So there are two purposes. One is like you can create, can be created for a person, or it can be created for an organization program. It can be a project, or it can be a application team that needs to test something. So it can be created for two ways. At the end, you need all these details in common. And when you go and create an account, there are two options. Like there is a personal option and a professional option. Okay, so I see, for example, I've already created, have an account, but if you want to create a new account, you can say create one. Okay, and it will take you to the screen where you can go and enter the details. Okay, you can just click on create new account, and here it asks me what is the email address, and does someone want to try that from your side? Because I've already created multiple accounts. If you want to start exploring Azure, you can start creating it. Who would like to do that?
Stan, I
Okay,
can do that. No problem.
yeah, you can do it, right? So let me see, it's user. So are you logged into desktop or laptop?
Laptop.
Okay, perfect then. I'm making you a presenter now, and you can share your screen, and let me do it. Okay, make presenter. So your screen will be into presenter mode. You can click on screen sharing, and you can log into your browser. Yeah, perfect. And you can type in your Gmail ID.
Gmail.
Yeah, it can be Gmail or it can be any account. Yeah. Yeah, it can be Outlook, it can be live. Okay, so you need not go and create a separate account for this. You can create this. So try to enter your password, and then if
Oh,
not, we'll go and yeah, let's try it. But I mean, it will tell you like whether you already have an account or not. Just for verification, I'm just trying to do this. Else you can go and sign
okay.
in with a new account, or else go back one step if you're not aware of your password, because these days, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
try it.
Can
Give
I
it a
have
try.
one question?
Yeah.
After 30 days, the account which you create under free tier, like it will ask for to upgrade, right? To pay as you go model. So if you don't
Correct.
upgrade, can you use this free account for 12 months for free services, or how it is?
No, no, no. You have to convert your account from free tier to pay as you go after 30 days. Yeah. But you are not going to get charged unless you create, unless you create a chargeable service. If you are continuing to create the free services, you will not be charged. See, it's like the AWS only, right? Even in AWS, you can create all the free tier capable services for 12 months. But if you're creating something which is chargeable, they send you the bill and you have to pay for that bill. And see, if you are accidentally creating something and you want get excuse from Microsoft 1 or 2 times, they will allow. Okay, for example, you can say I just for learning purpose I created this, and just kind of I mean, you can just get some kind of redemptions if in case you want to kind of do it for once or twice. But they will also do some backend checks whether the services that you have created has got accessed by any external parties, or you have started making money out of it. They will go and do some background checks for 1 or 2 days, and then they will come and reverse that particular charge. Okay, so there are okay, just go back one step to the home screen, Pradeep. Sorry, yeah, Prabhu. Yeah, go one step back. Okay, yeah, here just say create one. Okay, yeah, just get a new email address. Say get a new email address. Select the option below. Okay, here under the drop down, you are seeing only Microsoft IDs, right? Can you check what are the other options? Outlook and Hotmail only. Do you have any existing accounts from Microsoft?
No.
All right. Okay, you can say use your email instead. Select the second option. Yeah. Okay. Type your account, Gmail address. Okay. Click next. And if you forgot your password, okay, it's already a Microsoft account, then that's good. Okay, then I think then you have tried it before. Okay, so that's the reason you are getting this error. So they are clearly telling that you have already used for a Microsoft account. Have you tried creating an account in Azure platform previously?
No, Stan.
Oh, is it? Okay, just go one step back then. Okay,
So,
just enter your the same ID. If someone else is trying, like, let me know. If you're able to move across with your existing Gmail account, you can let me know. Yeah, you can just say forgot password if in case you forgot your password.
yeah, I think I need to reset.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing
you can
it,
do that.
and I move forward.
Oh, you are able to move forward, right? So it's Narayanan,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay, Narayanan. Let me try to make you a presenter until Prabhu tries to fix it from his side. Okay, you can click screen sharing and you will be able to share your screen. Yeah, so once after you enter your username and password, you will be able to move past that. You can just say, for now, you can say no thanks. See, if you want to have multi-factor authentication, you can install Microsoft Authenticator in your mobile, and you can start receiving one-time password so that your login process is more authenticated, or it is multi-factor authenticated. You can say no thanks, and you can move on. After you enter your Gmail ID and password, this is the screen you will get. Okay, so it's like kind of loading. You can say maybe later. If you want to explore some of the options they will give you. See, once after you create an account, in order for creating a resource, you need to have an active subscription. So subscription is where you get the actual benefits to create the resources. Okay, so let me try to share my screen now. I'll make myself as a presenter. So I'll help you with how to create a kind of subscription shortly. Okay, so once after you log in, you get a screen like this. Okay, and if you go to home, you have some options. So you have a settings option here, with which you can just make some changes in your look and feel. So if you want to just have some kind of filtering, or if you want to just kind of have some appearance changes, if you want to have a fly out option here, see, now it's docked option. When I say docked option, you have all the menu here on the left. You can see that you can go and select the resources, you can go and create the database. So whatever resource you need, you can go and use the docked option here, or else you can go for flyout so that you get the full screen to play around. So you get the complete screen now to play around. If you want to get the menu, you can click on this portal menu and you will be able to get the same listing so that you get the complete screen for using Azure portal. Okay, if you want to have the docked, you get some 10% of the screen used by the menu here, the portal menu. And if you want to, if you are a person who like dark colors or light colors, you can change the theme. You can change the contrast if you have some eye problem. And you can also play around how to start with Azure portal, whether you want to have a home screen or whether you want to have some dashboard specifically showing some of your application utilization and so on. You can change the look and feel, and you can customize the appearance and start menu. And if you are a person who are coming from a different geographical region, and if you don't if you are not a native English speaker, if you want to explore the menu or the portal using your own local language like Dutch or Francis or like Francese or Italiano, you can choose the different languages that are available here. Okay, even you can go and choose some of the regional languages from different country. Okay, so there are a lot of options here. You can go and change the language and region through which you are planning to explore the portal. Okay, you get the advantage of using the regional format. And you can also change the email address if in case I want to change the email address for some specific reason, and if I want to get the updates. So this is the email address. You will get all the consumption related details like your billing, your support, any specific security issues that they are finding out in your account. So all those will be communicated to your email ID. Okay, that's the thing it is also used for, not just for creating an account. Even that same email ID will be used for sending the billing updates, support update. If you want to have a different account, you can also update it here. Okay, and when you want to sign out, you can also secure your account. See, for example, some people will log into some browsing center, or they will be logging in with a kind of shared device, and if they want to sign out their account after some kind of inactive time, maybe after 15 minutes or inactive, or you want to have some custom duration like 4 hours or 3 hours, you can modify it. Okay, and you can also enable idle timeout. Okay, so this can be very helpful if in case you have logged into a particular portal and you have not signed out. It will automatically sign out you for security reason. So you have to explore the portal settings. That is important. Okay, when you log into the Azure portal, you have options to customize the menu, portal menu, and you have the option to change the colors and all those things. You also have the option to change the language of your choice. And yeah, so these are some of the options. You can customize the appearance. You can change the email ID. Okay, and sign out options like idle time and all those things. Okay, let me close this. And if you want to look at some more details, okay, you can just go to the settings here. You can click on this. It will open up the menu. And if you just want to close this, you can close it here. Okay, and if you want to create any resource, okay, the first thing you need to have is an account. Okay, if you want to create something in Azure portal, the very first thing you need to have an account. Now we have created an account, and one second guys, now we have created an account, and we are going to explore what are the different things that needs to be in place for creating the resources. When I say resources, virtual machine is a resource. Creating an web app is a resource. Creating a storage account, it's a resource. So in order to create any resource in Azure portal, you need to have an active account and active subscription. Okay, one second, guys. Give me a minute. Give me a second. It looks like some people did not get the intimation. Let me just bear with me for a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know how I missed them. Just 2 seconds, okay? I'm just forwarding them the invite. I seem to have missed them adding it here. Okay, sorry about it. So let's continue here. So once after you create an account, you need to have a subscription before you can go and create any resources. Okay, first thing, you need to have an active account. And the second thing, you need to have an active subscription. So subscription is actually tied to few things, especially the support plan, whatever we talked about, it is tied to your subscription. See, whenever you go and get a telecom account created, like you will get a phone number and you will get a support plan enabled. Without support plan, you will not be able to make any phone calls, or you will not be able to use some data, or sending chat messages or text messages. It is not possible without a support plan, right? So subscription is needed for creating any resources. So subscription is kind of a boundary for your resources. Okay, it's a kind of resource boundary where you can create it for multiple purpose. For example, if you have a specific business unit within your organization, you have a HR business unit, or you have a kind of marketing and sales, or you have some finance business unit, in order for them to kind of isolate their resources, they can go and create resources in a separate subscription. So in general, people create subscription for segregating their resources or separating their resources into different account as a different subscription, so that their consumption can be reported individually and they can pay for that. And some companies, they go and segregate the resources to have environment boundary. When I say environment boundary, in an organization, we might have different type of resources. You might have test VMs, you might have production VMs, you might have development VMs. So you might have different environments like dev, quality assurance, pre-prod, and testing, and so on, right? So okay, got it. Okay, so there are different specific things, and if you have some management boundary, for example, some organization might have support resources from India, some people will have support resources globally aligned, and for example, India team might support the services which are hosted on India data center, India Azure data center, and maybe in Asia data center, and we might have a support group in Europe which will be supporting only the resources in the European countries. Okay, so some organization might have some kind of management boundaries. They might have regional support teams just for giving the advantage of local language, or local like to make sure that they get the support in their local accent and so on. They will have people supporting the resources from their regional teams. Okay, so they might create resources or subscription for segregating the resources, or they might be creating the subscription for segregating the environment. They might create one account for one subscription for production, one subscription for development, and so on. And if in case we have a different support group or a different regional support teams, then we can also go and create multiple subscriptions. Okay, so let's go and create the subscription, and before that we'll get to understand what happens when subscriptions goes beyond control. See, for example, if in a very small organization, we might have only one subscription. Okay, like that might be more than sufficient because it's a very small company where you might not have a lot of business units, a lot of applications running. You can go and create one subscription. But what if in case I have a medium-sized company where they want to have segregation of different resources? For example, they want to have a development subscription so that they can pay less amount for development, and also they can have a separate budget for that. Similarly, they can have a production subscription in order for security purpose and also for segregating the resources. So in some mid-size organization, you can have 3 or 4 or maybe up to 20 subscriptions in a mid-size organization. But if your organization is global and if you have a very large size organization, they might even create 50 or 100 subscriptions. So if you go beyond a number, then comes the challenge of how to assign permissions to them, how to have standardization among them, how to have common policies, how to have a common standardization, how to apply best practices to all these subscriptions. So the more you create subscription, it goes out of your management control. Okay, you get challenges in terms of assigning permissions, policies, compliance, maintaining standards, and all those things. It becomes a big challenge. So when you grow beyond a particular number of subscription, management or operations gets very tough. Okay, in order to solve that particular challenge, Microsoft has given an option called management boundary. This management group, it's only used only when you have multiple subscriptions beyond your support control. It's not needed for all your organization, but if you have an organization or if you're working for an organization where they've got multiple subscription, and if you want to have, sorry guys, okay, if you want to have some kind of structurization, or if you want to apply some kind of standards across organizations. See, for example, I will say what exactly I'm referring to standardization here. See, in Europe, you might feel like Oracle is actually much better database, and you might start creating Oracle databases for your application. And in India, they might feel like Postgres or some open source databases very well, and you can go and you might go and create it. In Americas, they will feel like Microsoft SQL is more graphical, more user friendly, and you can play around a lot, and they might go and choose creating their own version. So in different regional groups or in different locations, they might go and create their own choice of application development language or database or whatever they are creating. They will create in their own understanding, or they will go and create in their own choice. So there are two aspects. So one important thing, the governance gets challenging. And also, if you are planning to outsource the support to an external organization, or if you are planning to consolidate to a particular location, you need to have multi-skilled people, or you need to have separate people having skills on database like Oracle or Postgres or some open source platform or some kind of programming languages. So if you don't have a common framework, if you don't have a common technology uh, uh, if you don't have a common technology, or if you don't have a common standard, then things get more complex. Okay, that's what I'm referring to standardization. So in if you are creating a kind of a specific type of operating system for your application, the same operating system can be used in other locations also. See, some people will use CentOS, some people will use Red Hat Linux, some people might use SUSE Linux. So there are lots of operating systems. There are a lot of options to create your application. There are a lot of development programming languages. There are a lot of options to choose database. So if you go with irregular IT standards, then things get more complex. Okay, so if you want to have standardization, even if you have multiple subscription across different region, if you want to have standardization across all the subscription, then you can go and create management group. That is the number one requirement. And if you want to have common policies, for example, if you want to restrict something from creating, or if you want to have some kind of policies in place, like your Active Directory group policy, if you want to have common policies and procedures followed, you can also go and have that management group to use that. And if you want to give permission to multiple subscription, you can group them under management group. Okay, if you want to give some access control or permission or whatever, or if you want to set some compliance requirement, if you want to apply HIPAA practice, or if you want to apply CMMS standard, or if you want to apply some PCI standard across all the subscription, even you can use management group for that. And also, if you want to implement some best practices, some standards and all those things, so ideally what I'm talking about here is you can have a better governance and better management. Okay, that's the reason you need to have a management group that can combine all the subscription together into a common logical folder. Okay, so management group is needed for an organization where they have more than I mean, if you have 10 subscription or 20 subscription, that's when you get the challenges in terms of management. Just if you have only one subscription or two subscription or three subscription, you definitely don't need to create management group. It will be additional burden for you. But if you have management subscriptions which is out of your management control, only when you have multiple subscriptions, And if you feel like it's better to have a management group in order to have some kind of overall governance, then go and create the management group. It's not mandatory. Okay, so okay, let me just minimize this. So this is how the structure looks like. Okay, so the next one is, first, in order to do anything in Azure platform, you need to create an account and you need to have a subscription. But management group is a kind of optional thing. Okay, just make sure you understand it. It's not always needed for all the organization. Some small organization or mid-size organization will not have the management group. They will have only the subscription. So after creating the subscription, you can go and create something called resource group. Okay, so if you ask me like how the hierarchy of Azure looks like, so you have an account, and within that account, you have a kind of management group. And within that management group, you have subscriptions. And within subscription, you have resource group to group your resources. And within that, you have the resources. So this is the hierarchy of Azure platform. Okay, so management group, it's a combination of collection of subscription, it's a collection of resource group, it's a collection of resources. So this is the hierarchy. Okay, so you have account, you have management group, which is optional, you have subscription, which is collection of resource group, and you have resources, which resides under any specific resource group. Okay, so this is the overall structure. Now we are going to discuss about the resource group, the structure which we are seeing it here. So when you want to have a group of resources, for example, a resource, let's explain about the resource first. A resource can be kind of a larger one. For example, it can be a virtual machine, or it can be a web application, or it can be a storage account, or it can be a virtual network. So all these are kind of example of a resource. Okay, and some resources might also have sub resources. For example, when I say sub resources, if you go and create a virtual machine, it also creates something like a network interface card, NIC card, and it also creates a public IP address for network connectivity and so on. So these are all sub resources which are part of your virtual machine. Okay, without network interface card, you cannot have communication on the network. And on the other side, if your virtual machine need to connect to the network, you need a network interface card and public IP address and so on. So there are some sub resources. Resources nothing but any entity that you create in Azure platform, any entity that you create. Okay, it can be a it can be anything. Okay, so if you go and create any resource, it can be a blob, or it can be a um, Cosmos database, or it can be a SQL database. Anything that you create in Azure platform, it's an entity. So any entity is a resource in Azure. Okay, and see, for example, if you have multiple resources, let's say I've created a application VM, or I have created a web VM, and I've created an app VM, and I have created a database VM. So this is a 3-tier application, right? And if you're going and storing them in a separate location, okay, so it's like kind of getting a little challenging, right? So it's a 3-tier app where you have multiple virtual machines that forms the application. And what they generally do is they group all these virtual machines together inside a resource group. So when you create the resource group, it combines all these resources which are related together. And if you want to decommission that application, so you can go and decommission that entire resource group, so that it will decommission all the related resources. You will not leave any traces. For example, in your on-premises VMware environment, you might go and delete the database virtual machine on the VMware platform. But on the back end, you might have some RDM disk, or you might have some hard disks which are not deleted. And what will happen in the on-premises, that 100 GB or 200 GB capacity will be wasted. So it's a not required file, but still you are just enabling sprawling there. Sprawling means you are unnecessarily using the capacity in your on-premises. See, in on-premises, it is okay because you have already invested in the storage, and the storage is owned by you. You either use it or not use it, you have already invested in it. But in the cloud, it's not like that. If you are having a lot of unwanted resources, then you have to pay for that. If you are having 50 GB of capacity in Azure platform, you need to pay every month for that 50 GB. So it's very important that you have to kind of have a proper governance or proper creation and deletion mechanism. So in order to have the kind of grouping, and if you want to create all the required resources together, and if you want to delete all of them together, you need to group them under a concept called resource group. So resource grouping, it's mainly to combine all the resources which are related together. Okay, so I would say resource group in simple words, it's a collection of resources. Resources are nothing but your VMs, web app, storage account, network card, everything is a resource. And why we need to get them combined together? In order to organize it properly. Okay, in order to kind of structurize it properly. If you want to structurize them, if you want to organize them in a proper way, then you need to create a resource group. And the other advantage that you get is all the related resources that you create, all related resources will have common life cycle or will have the same life cycle. When I say same life cycle, if you are creating these VMs together today, you will delete all of them, decommission them, all of them on the same date. So commissioning and decommissioning goes hand in hand. Okay, so if you commission all the servers will be getting commissioned on the same day. And if you're decommissioning it, all the things will be deleted in the same day. So you will not have any kind of unwanted resources left on the back end. See, for example, if you are going and create web server in one resource group and database server in another resource group, then it brings a challenge of how to make them properly deleted or decommissioned. Right? So if someone asks you what exactly is a resource group, it's a logical folder or it's a logical group to have the related resources combined together. Okay, it's a logical group of resources. So when I say logical, see, for a web virtual machine, you need to have a operating system, you need to have a network card, it's a kind of, you need to have a public IP address for the user to connect to it. So you are logically grouping the resources together. It's a logical group of resources belonging to a particular application or particular environment. Okay, so belonging to a particular application or environment or some business purposes. Okay, so how do we generally create resource groups? It's generally created based on the project. If you want to create a project, for example, I want to do some XYZ project and I want to create resources for that project, you can create all the related resources inside that folder, inside that resource group. Resource group is nothing but a logical folder. Okay, it's you don't have to think too much. It's a logical folder to host the resources, and some people will go and create based on the project, some people will go and create it based on their application requirement, some people will go and create it for different business unit and so on. Okay, so different architect have their own views, right? So they might create it for different logical concepts. And the advantage of going and creating a resource group, you get the utilization of, you can get the utilization resource group level. Okay, you can get the consumption report or the billing report per resource group. That's the advantage. If you are having a separate resource group for a separate business unit, you can also have it. See, even for a smaller organization, you have only one subscription. So how do we kind of segregate them to have a kind of billing mechanism or reporting mechanism? It's achievable using resource group. If you have a smaller organization and still you want to have some kind of segregation, okay, so then you need to have a kind of resource group. So resource group can also be used for segregating resources. Okay, so resource groups, very important. One, I talked about the advantage. For example, if you delete the resource group, it will delete all the related resources, number one. On the other side, if you're accidentally deleting the resource group, it will delete all the resources. Okay, which means you have to be very careful when you're playing around with resource groups. Resource group deletion will delete all the resources within it. Okay, that's very important. And you can also use it for configuring some kind of restriction. You can also use it for configuring some permissions, restrictions, quota, lot of things can be done. Okay, so resource group, it's also a kind of a virtual segregation where you can go and do some kind of logical grouping, logical segregation, and you can have a effective management. Okay, so ideally, if you want to have a very large organization, then you can create the segregation by using subscription. But if it is a very smaller organization, you will have only one subscription, and within that you will have multiple resource groups to segregate the boundaries. Okay, so as I said, the boundary can be for resource wise, it can be for environment wise, it can be for management wise. Even some organization, they want to have for security boundary. See, not all the application in a particular customer environment need to be compliant for a particular thing. Maybe some application that needs to be CMMS compliant, or that needs to be kind of GDPR compliant. So some application might need some kind of compliance regulation to be met, and you can create a separate subscription or resource group in order to achieve that. Okay, so you can also create a security boundary, and you can also have a kind of resources created in a separate subscription for achieving certain kind of compliance, legal, and all those things. In order to apply, get some compliance or legal or some kind of restrictions met, you can also go and create different subscription. And in some organization, they also do it for billing boundary. For example, some people, they want to get a separate bill for their consumption. They will say like HR department, I should not have my servers and all those things hosted alongside the general application. I need to have a separate subscription. I want to get a separate bill. Even for that purpose, you can also go and create a separate subscription. Even it can be created for having a separate billing boundary. Okay, even though you can get the consumption report or billing report per resource group, some organization, they also want to have some security restriction that HR systems should not be accessible by the common IT team or the common team. They want to have it separated in a separate subscription, and also they want to have a separate billing boundary for that. Okay, so that if they have a some support group, that IT team will actually have some kind of agreement signed with the HR that they're not going to leak any business information, or they are liable if in case they are actually playing around with the data inside it. So there are a lot of classification on how you can go and create subscription. It can be created for separating your environment like development, non-production, and production. It can be segregated per resource, or it can be segregated by security requirements. It can be created for billing aspect. Even some organization, they go and segregate by department. Okay, so for example, the department, it's the same, right? If you are creating a subscription for a university, they might want to have separate subscription for different departments. Even in an organization, you have a lot of departments, right? Finance, HR, all those things. Even that follows the departmental boundary, not just universities or even in a government organization, there are a lot of departments inside their organization structure. Okay, so any questions from anyone on the hierarchy of Azure?
Hi Stan,
Yeah.
Nandu here, Stan.
Yes, Nandu.
So Stan, when you are saying about the resources, right? So one resources can be a part of multiple resource group.
No. So
That is not possible.
that's a good question. Yeah, it's not possible. So you have to, 1 minute, let me just complete that. Okay, so one resource can be part of one resource group. So it's one-to-one mapping. See, right? For example, if you are creating a VM, it's only one VM, and you can have only under a particular virtual machine structure. For example, if you are creating a data center, or if you're creating a folder in your VMware, even it's the same case, right? See, in your VMware, what you do generally, you go and create a data center, and within that you have some kind of cluster, and within that you have some ESXi server and VM. So it's the kind of similar logical structurizing here. So you can have only one-to-one mapping. So one resource group, one resource can be part of only one resource group. It cannot be present in multiple areas.
Okay, Stan.
Yeah.
So Stan, in case if it is a resource, that is fine. But when we are thinking about the storage, the storage can be used by multiple machines, right? So how Microsoft is solving this kind of issues here?
Okay, so see, when you say storage, for example, if you want to present a kind of disk, you create a virtual machine disk and you map it to the VM, right? So this is at the VM level. And if you want to have a file share, and if you want to share it with multiple VMs, then you create a file share in a storage account and you share it with multiple VMs. So there are multiple purposes the storage can be used for. So it can be used for a virtual machine, or it can be used for a backend application, or a file, maybe a general purpose file share. There are some multiple use cases where we go and use it. But yeah, this is I don't see there is a challenge with that. So when we discuss storage, you'll get to understand what exactly I am conveying now. So there, I mean, there is not challenge there. Okay, there is no challenge. It's like um, the question that you asked earlier. It's a valid question, but it doesn't have any relevance to this. Okay, so you'll get to understand it later. Yeah,
Okay, Stan, thank you.
yeah. So just understand this.
One
Okay,
question.
one subscription can have multiple resource group. One resource group can have multiple resources. So there are some many to one mapping when you go from bottom to top. And when it comes from top to bottom, it is like one to one mapping kind of thing. So meaning one resource group can have multiple resources. One subscription can have multiple RG, resource group. So RG stands for resource group. Okay, so yeah, go ahead with your question. What is the question?
Regarding the resource group, so a resource group can be done only with the same type of application, or it can be grouped with a different type of applications. Example, say if web VM is grouped in a single resource group, whether it should be all remaining will be only web VM, or it can be application or DB.
You can combine them, Babu. See, the problem is if you do it by web application and database, there should be some kind of justification. See, if you are a design engineer and if you have some specific logic behind grouping the web VMs for some specific permission to a particular group, for example, let me tell you. So if you have some 100 database servers, okay, and if you want to bring all the database VM together into one group, maybe one justification you can say, I want to grant access to database admins only to this VMs, and I don't want them to access the other VMs. So something, a kind of logic should be there in order to group them. So ideally, we group it by application or what we call department or business unit. So we have some kind of standard practice, but some architect they can do it whatever logic they want, but it has to be approved by the enterprise architecture board in a larger organization. Maybe in smaller organization, you might be the deciding authority. You will take a decision on your own, and you will go and create it. But in a larger organization, the idea has to be presented before the enterprise architecture board, and they have to give the approval, because like you cannot just go and do it in a larger organization. So later changing all these things, or later changing the structure of what we have created, it's going to be very challenging, because there will be some active resources within that. So if you want to change it, you have to move the active resources and then rename it, and then you have to bring it back. So it is going to be very complex if in case you are creating a non best practice design or whatever, right? So in a larger organization, definitely we will have an architecture board which will approve. But as a solution architect, you can go and present your ideas, like I want to create this resource group and I want to group them this way. They will provide their expert opinion that whether this is very good. So you will discuss the pros and cons with that approach, and you will decide on a particular approach. But ideally, you can have a particular set of resources which is aligned to an application. Okay, that will be a much better approach.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stan sir, this is Giri here.
Go ahead, Giri. Yeah.
This is regarding that resource group.
Yeah.
Is it like the auto scaling group which we create in the AWS? Is it that same kind of thing?
No, it is different. See, in AWS, we have auto scaling, which is for automatically adding the resources and reducing the resources based on the consumption or based on the utilization. Here we call it as virtual machine scale set. We will discuss this topic and practical tomorrow on what exactly it is. Okay, so it's not the same. So auto scaling group in AWS, it is equivalent to virtual machine scale set in Azure platform. It's different.
So this resource group is like there will be any tagline.
Okay, even in AWS, as on date, you have started getting that resource group concept, but it is not very effectively used, Giri. Okay, so let me sign into the console and quickly show you that. So even on date, you have that resource group in AWS, but they have not given that option at the very beginning. They have recently added that concept called resource grouping. But Azure, we discussed about two different model, right? ASM model and ARM model. And with ARM model, they introduced this. Even in Azure, sorry, AWS also, you have this resource group concept, which helps you to group the AWS resources. Okay, so auto scaling is different. Resource group is different. Even in AWS also, we have resource group.
Yes, got it. And
Yeah.
sorry for
No worries. Please
asking
go
again.
ahead. Yeah.
My internet got flagged during this resource boundary and environment boundary explanation. Just
Yeah.
a small overview would be fine for me.
Okay, which one? Okay, this one, right? Okay. So see, what I'm talking about here is, in general, as a practice in an organization, what they will do is they want to create a separate subscription for non-production workload and production workload. If it is a mid-size organization, they will create only two subscription, non-production subscription and production subscription. The reason is, if they are going and doing some changes on the non-production, it should not impact the production workload. Similarly, the other way around, if you are planning to do something on the production, it should not impact the non-production workload. So in order to segregate the different environment based on the size of the organization, they might have one subscription or 10 subscription or 20 subscription. So they will create multiple subscription based on the environment boundary that they want to create. And they will also create some kind of subscription for segregating the resources. Some resources might be for when you go to an organization, like mostly it will be like you might feel like it is a one organization, but ideally they might have done a lot of acquisition, they might have done a lot of merger. It's a kind of group of companies. Always, like most of the organization that we are talking about at the global level, they will go and purchase a lot of companies and they will have a lot of sub companies. And as a practice, most of the organization, they will not go and kind of combine them together into one subscription. The reason, if they want to sell that company to some other organization, or if they want to kind of run that as a separate entity, so they will have some kind of separate subscription for separate company within the organization. So organization, it's one, but it might have hundreds of company. Okay, so if you talk about manufacturing organization, they will do a lot of acquisition. Even if you look at the newspaper yesterday, Tata Group has purchased a lot of different airlines. Okay, now they have Air India, they have like Air Asia's India operations. Also they have got Vistara. So they have got multiple companies that forms the group of organization. So Tata is a group of organization, but they will have multiple sub companies which might need to be still remain in a separate subscription. So tomorrow, if Tata decides to sell off or spin off Vistara, they can just move the subscription to the new organization. So it can be for resource boundary also, or it can be for management boundary. For example, when I say management boundary, if you have different support group, I have some India support center, and I have got some support center in the UK. I have got some support center in the Americas. So based on the management boundary, if I have a different account manager, technical account manager, or regional account manager in India and Asia, Europe, and Americas, I can go and create resources based on the management boundary also. And if in case I have some separate department units which they want to receive a separate billing for their consumption. For example, HR might have only 2 or 3 application, and see, for them to convince some of the departments, it is very tough for us. So we'll say like your application has got this public IP, this particular storage account, these file share, this particular network interface card, you need to pay for this. They will ask like whether, it's very tough to convince some of the departments or business unit, because they are not more into IT. For convincing them for the monthly billing, it gets challenging. Okay, so for such cases, what you can do is you can tell that this subscription is only for you guys, and your department is running the resources or creating the resources and managing it, and you have to pay for that particular month-end bill. Okay, whatever consumption they have come done, they have you can give it. Similarly, some organization which I have worked with, some application need to be compliant for some legal entities. For example, some application need to be CMMS compliant in order for that to be used by the end user. Some application needs to be PCI compliant, something like that. Okay, so there might be some legal requirement or some compliance requirement which might also trigger segregating them into a separate subscription. Okay, so if you go and work in a particular organization, see, these are all at the design level. Okay, but for a particular administrator, but for an operation team, you just need to understand that after I create an account, I have something called subscription, which is mandatory for creating resources, and this is how the structure looks like. So if you understand this, this is more than sufficient for a administrator or a operations team. But if you are a design engineer, if you are a solution architect with 10-15 years of experience, then you need to understand all these things on how to create something better for an organization, how to create it in a very structured way, in a better way to manage things properly. If you are implementing all these things, at the end, the output you are getting is better IT governance, better IT model. You are enabling better framework for the organization to sustain with the same structure for a longer time. So if you are going and creating something which cannot be sustainable, then you need to make a lot of changes. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
This is Ravi Shankar.
Go ahead, Satish. You can go ahead, Satish.
Yeah. Can we just like compare the subscription with the AWS VPC? So is
No,
it the same kind of?
no, it's different. See, AWS, we have got something called virtual private cloud, which is equivalent to virtual network in Azure. We'll compare it during the network class. So VPC is equivalent to VNet.
Okay.
Virtual
So
network.
the resource group, can we restrict between the resource group? Again, it will come in with the network access level.
Okay, so see, when you're talking about permissions or when you're talking about connectivity, there are different aspects, right? See, for example, if you want to enable restriction, see, in AWS, you create something called virtual network virtual private cloud to segregate the resources at the network level, right? And after which you have options to kind of create a boundary between them by creating a network access control list, or you can also create something called security group to restrict the network traffic. Okay, so there are ways how we can limit the traffic or how the resources get connected to each other at the network level. That we will discuss during the network class. It's like for your first question, yeah, VPC is a segregation at the network level. We have virtual network, which can be used in a similar way in Azure. Okay, so we'll discuss that later. So go ahead, the one, like, is it Gopi or who started talking? Sorry about that.
Yeah, can you hear
It's
me?
Ravi.
Stan Kanagraj here.
Yes,
Hello.
Kanagraj. Go ahead, Kanagraj. Okay, I
Stan,
think
are
I
you able
lost
to
it.
hear me?
Yes, Ravi. Sorry, I mean you are the one who started talking along with
Yeah.
Satish, but yeah, go ahead, Ravi. Yeah.
Okay. So we have this resource groups, right? So when I'm
Yeah.
creating a resource at the beginning, I assign it to a resource group. Can the resource can be changed to another resource group in the midway, or due to some security concerns or other things?
Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
shift to another resource groups?
Okay. So
And is
see,
there a
there is
limit for the
earlier.
resource groups?
Yeah. See, there are some limits and best practices. See, for example, let's say a management group. There is a limit that you can create only 1,000 management groups. So management group itself, we can create up to 1,000. So there is a soft limit to everything. Okay. So even though we say like we get unlimited resources in the cloud, so there are some restrictions that you need to be aware of or you need to adhere with. For example, when you go and create the structure in your organization, you cannot go and create too many structure. For example, you can have one subscription, and within that you can have multiple subscription, and you can just create management groups within management groups also. So which means you can create management group within management group. Similarly, you can create resource groups, and then you can have different structures, but you need to follow some levels of depth. Okay, when I say levels of depth, if you are creating like management group 1, management group 3, 2, 3, and 4, the more the levels you create, it gets challenging for inheriting the permission or for doing any kind of inheritance or any kind of management. It gets tougher. So what I'm trying to convey is there is a soft limit to the numbers that we can do. So how many numbers of subscriptions we can create or how many numbers of management group, there is a soft limit. And there is also some kind of practice you need to kind of keep in mind when you go and structurize your organization. You cannot go and create multiple structures. Let me show you some couple of examples, okay, so that you get to understand that properly. So maybe like let me share my screen and let's see. Let me reshare my screen, okay, so that I can open up the slide or the details that I'm referring to. Yeah, let me answer Ravi's question quickly. Azure final. Give me a minute. I'm trying to open up something here. Day2 subscription. Okay, like I'm just trying to search for that particular slide where I have got some examples. Okay, I've got it. So let me share it. So Kanagraj, give me a minute. Okay, I'll come to your question. Even there are a couple of questions on the chat. I'll answer that. Okay, so
Yeah,
if you look
sure.
at here, yeah, if you look at here, you can have one subscription per organization unit, or also you can have multiple subscriptions. See, for example, development, lab, POC or QA or production, you can have one account with multiple subscription, or else you can also go and create multiple management group within one management group. You can have a root management group. Within that, you can also have marketing and IT management group separately. You can have subscription. So meaning you can have management group within management group. So there are some best practices where you can go up to 6 levels of depth. Even Microsoft recommends limit as much as possible. If you go and create multiple levels, it gets complex for managing it actually. So the scalability is available, but with some number of limits. And beyond that, you need to be careful. Okay, so when you go and create some things, it has to be following some kind of good practice or best practice, so that giving permissions or access gets easier. Okay, go ahead, Kanagraj. So, I mean, did I answer you, Ravi, or you are still having any other questions?
No, my question was, if I create a resource in a particular resource group at the time of creation, can I change it to another resource group in
Yeah,
mid?
I got it.
That was
I was about to answer that, but I got carried away. Okay, so in Azure platform, you have something called resource mover, okay, which will help you to move resources across subscription, across resource group, across region. Okay, so you can move the resources whatever way you want to. So for that, Microsoft, this was recently added. This service was not available earlier, but recently, like maybe 18 months back, they brought this option. So you can move resources across subscription using this resource mover. And you can also move resources across resource group and also across your management. Management group is a management kind of concept. So another region. Okay. I know there is some typo there, but yeah, so it is. Okay, you can move. Answer is yes. Okay, also Microsoft gives you a kind of wizard based option where you can go and trigger that. You can just go inside that and then say, for example, I want to move something across resource group. I can say from which source resource group, from resource group backup, I want to move it to resource group migration, whatever you want to do. You can select which resources you want to move and add those resources, and you can start moving it. So there are options. So you can use tool called Azure Resource Mover, which can be used for moving the resources to another subscription, to another resource group, to another region also. Answers your question?
okay. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead, Kanagraj, sorry.
Yeah, I got an answer actually. So
Oh, you
one
got it.
account we
Okay.
have a multiple. Yeah,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes. I'm hearing you very much. Yeah. I'm able to hear you, Ravi. I think you said you got the answer, so we can move on. Any other questions from anyone?
Stan, one other question from my side, Nandu here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Stan, when we are creating a resource, you mentioned that some child resources also will get created, right?
Mhm.
So that
Correct.
process is an automated process, and
Yeah.
do we
So,
need?
yeah. So in general, see, for a virtual machine to work properly, you need some bare minimum things. For example, you definitely need a private IP. You definitely need at least one network card. You need at least one disk for your operating system. So there are some bare minimal things that needs to be created. So when you go and create a VM, see, for an example, I go and create a resource here. So when I go and create some virtual machine quickly, so what happens on the back end, it goes and creates, I'll just give some sample here. Don't worry about what I'm selecting or what I'm trying to do here. Okay, it's just a general thing. Okay, just answer the question. Okay, don't worry about the options and all those things. I'm just quickly trying to answer something here. Okay, let me select a region or let me select some size and I'll just create it. See, when you create the resource, I just selected, I have given a name and I have not done lot of changes or lot of options. I did not go and explore it, but still I was able to create the VM by just giving the VM name and giving a username and password. I was able to create it. So in order for this minimum VM to run, it will go and create multiple resources. So let's wait for that list of resources that are going to get created. So it will definitely go and create one disk for your operating system, one network card for connecting to the network, and similarly you will have one public IP address or a private IP address for network communication. And you might also have other resources. See, it is creating a virtual network, it is creating a security group to restrict the traffic that comes to the VM. It also have assigned a public IP address. So when you go and create a VM, it automatically creates some sub resources. But if you need some kind of additional resources, for example, I need some additional data disk, I need some additional network card for adding some more traffic for a web server or a kind of backup traffic or replication traffic, or for heartbeat, I need some additional network, I can go and add some additional network interfaces. So minimum requirements will be created automatically. That is a sub resource. And if you want to create a separate resource, for example, I need to create one more network card for creating a cluster or for creating a resource for replication, I can go and create a network interface separately also. And after creating it, I can go and attach it. So there are some bare minimal resources, sub resources that will be getting created along with your VM creation. But you can go and create additional resources and attach them as required.
Okay, Stan. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, Stanley, this is Arun.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, Stanley, the subscription which we are creating, as you already mentioned, like a different region wise and even test like that. So normally when we selecting, we have to make sure one subscription like data which is available, which don't have any dependency with the other, right?
Meaning,
So
can you elaborate more?
like for example, for one region, if you're selecting, and that region, whatever we are keeping the one subscription, which don't have any other dependency with another region or any other outside the subscription like that. For example, if any backup that we backup taking in a different location, it is far from the far from other subscription which is available, that is not possible, right?
No, it's possible. See, one subscription, it's a kind of logical thing, right? Subscription is mainly for what? It's for billing. It's for understanding who consumes what. It's mainly for, it's a billing boundary, I would say. It's for consumption. It's for billing the customer based on their consumption. And you can have resources. One subscription can have resources from different geographical region also. So one subscription means it's across the globe. Okay, so across Azure platform, wherever they have their data center or region, you can go and create resources. So subscription does not have any limitation attached to a region. So you can create resources from any region after you create the subscription.
Okay, so for example, one subscription, okay, we are mentioning all the VM and resources we are mentioning, and the backups and storage, it is like a maybe we have configured in different subscription way.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
that,
if you have done that, then there are options how we can enable permissions. There are some specific unique ID through which you can integrate them. There are options to do a kind of API integration between different resources in different subscription. So there are ways to integrate them or connect them.
okay,
There is a
we
kind
have
of in Amazon we call it as Amazon Resource ID, right? So something like that. Here also we have Azure Unique ID through which you can go and give specific permission. So for example, I've created a VM here, and for this VM, let me show you. So if I want to give some permissions for this VM from between, if I have one VM and one subscription and another VM and another subscription, I can go to the JSON view, and this resource, the VM001, it will have its own unique resource ID, which can be used for giving permission through any API. Similarly, you will have unique ID for your virtual machine. So even though for humans, it's like the name of the VM is the unique identifier, but for integration layer, for the APIs to get integrated, or if you want to give permissions for backup or for some kind of integration, then we generally go and use the unique ID. So unique ID can be for the resource or for the VM or whatever. So every single resource will have its own unique ID. Okay, that's what we
so
use for integrating using the API layer. Yeah, go ahead, please go ahead.
okay, yeah, only so subscription level we can connect each other, but only the resource level you said we cannot change it. We cannot connect each other, right? With another resource group, resource cannot be shared to the another resource group. That's what you.
Oh, okay. So that question, it more talks about, see, I have created a VM. See, this VM, now it is part of what we call this resource group, called, what is that resource group here? It is part of app service RG01. See, if I want to have the same VM001 in another resource group, I cannot have it. So this VM can reside only within this resource group at a time. Okay, so the question earlier asked was whether I can have this VM001 part of this resource group and another resource group. That cannot be possible. See, this is one resource. One resource can be residing on only one resource group. So if I want to move this resource to another resource group, then I click on this move. It takes me to the resource mover, and I can select I want this to move to some other resource group, and I can say click next, and it will ask whether it can be moved. It will validate, and it will confirm, and I can move it. So the question was whether I can have one resource in multiple resource group. That is not possible.
Okay, yeah, I got it. And thank you. And one more request: the resource group creation in a one subscription. Can you able to share some like a live example, like for all different kind of thing, like a database, application, backup, storage, all things how we are categorizing in a resource group? If you give us
So
some
Arun,
examples, so it will
yeah,
be more,
see, that's
we'll
what
get a
we are
more
going
idea.
to discuss about, how better we can create, like what is the naming convention, what is the best tagging convention, what are the different resources, how it can be created in an organized way. So we are going to explore all those things in a much detailed way, even more than what you are expecting. You will be able to get those best practices standards discussed, because even we have a separate class for governance, a complete session on that. So we can have the policies and how to do a best cost management, best practices. So we have a session for each and every core concept, like whatever you said, right? Database, network, or compute, or storage. We have separate session to cover all those things. So when we touch those, we discuss like specific areas, and we get to understand the good practices on how to organize those resources. So yeah, but now we are talking about at the Azure account level. Okay, we have not gone too deep into the resources yet, but I'm giving you the insight on what are the different hierarchy we have in Azure and how we can organize them. So we need to understand now at end of the this particular subtopic, we need to understand if you go and create resources in Azure, minimum you need an active account, you need a minimum active subscription, and if you have multiple subscription, then you can group them in management group. It's not a mandatory one, it's an optional one. And similarly, you can go and create multiple resource groups within subscription, and similarly you can have multiple resources within a resource group. That's what you need to understand for now. So whatever we have discussed here, it's good to know. If you are able to understand, then good. Otherwise, like don't get too much carried away. Okay, just understand this is the hierarchy. Simple.
Okay, thank you.
One
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Can one resource be means accessible from different subscriptions?
Yeah, definitely. See, that's what, right? So you have the resource ID, unique ID that gets created when you go and create a resource. So it can be accessed from anywhere, because like within Azure platform, this resource ID, it's like it has got its own syntax here, right? If I copy the syntax here, so every resource will have a resource ID. That resource ID will give you the complete details, like which subscription it is part of, number one, and it also gives you which resource group it is part of, number two, and also it gives you what exactly is the core concept, whether it is a compute resource or a storage resource or a database resource. It also gives you the complete structure. So it gives you the subscription detail, resource group, and the resource provider, which is compute or storage or whatever. So that all three things are covered here. So definitely it can be accessed from anywhere, from outside of the subscription, or if you want to access it from elsewhere, you will be able to do it. So it will have a subscription ID, it will have a resource group and its resource group details, and it will also have the resource provider, whether it is a compute or whether it is a database, all those things, and it will have the resource name. So this structure will be available for all the resource ID. Okay, so meaning you can access the resources from anywhere, even outside of the subscription also. This is a unique ID that you get for every resource.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, team? I know we took some time to understand this. This is very, very important to understand the hierarchy. Yeah, go ahead. No, your line is not clear for me, Yuva, if you are planning to ask some questions, or else. Okay, so we are at 9:35.
Hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Actually, resource groups for
Suresh, you can unmute your line and maybe you can adjust your volume to, sorry, you can maybe see whether you are closer to your mic and ask your question.
now can you hear
Suresh?
me?
Yes, Suresh William. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, this segregation to identify all the resources, everything. So if we wanted to remove the resource group, then it will be completely deleted, like that you said. There will be
Correct.
no charge everywhere. So by mistake, so without resource group, if something is there, any traceabilities are there, something, we can find out anywhere it is running, keep on the resources.
Right.
And
Yeah. We can trace it. See, you can export all the detailed resource group, or you can export all the resources. So, see, for accidental deletion, there are few things which we can do. Okay. So one thing, for example, I want to protect this VM. See, for example, we are working through browser, right? So you might be connecting through some slower network or whatever, and I don't want this particular VM to get accidentally deleted. So for which, any resources, okay, whether it is a resource group or a subscription or whatever, Microsoft has given a beautiful option called lock. Okay, resource lock. So what you can do with that is you can go and lock the resources to either read only or to delete, to deny the deletion. So to prevent any accidental deletion or to prevent any kind of accidental modification, you have something called resource lock, which can be used for this is an exam question also. Okay, there are two type of lock which you can enable. One is read only lock and the other one is delete lock. So this is for preventing accidental modification of your resources, and the other one is preventing accidental deletion of your resources. Okay, and you can just actually go and enable this lock. For example, if I want to enable the lock on this VM, I can go and say add, and it will ask me what type of lock I want to add. I can say delete lock and then say don't delete. You can give whatever name you want to, and I don't want this VM is very important, because some companies, they will switch on some VMs, switch off some VMs for few weeks or months for some reducing the cost. Some people like administrators or operations team, they will go and delete that VM thinking that it is not at all needed. So you can enable a lock. This VM is very important and needed for some historical purpose or some auditing purpose or whatever, right? Some people will create some certificate servers or some for auditing purposes. They might have some application servers available. So after I enable this, and if I go to this resource and try deleting it, it will say that this particular resource, I'm just going to say, I have read and deleted. It says there is an error occurred, and clearly it will say the resource has got a lock enabled. So you cannot perform delete operation because it has got the lock. And if your question is more towards how after I have deleted, what can I do? So for that, you need to kind of have a backup for your VM or backup for your resources. You need to have backup. That is the only option through which you can restore the services. Okay, you need to have a proper backup mechanism. But this is like two type of lock that are available, which can help to make any prevent any accidental modification or deletion.
So everything under our risk. So we have to take care of everything.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Microsoft,
we are the one. We are the owner. Yeah.
Yeah, they will not give any restore if accident deletion. So like that. So if you are forget to log like
Yeah.
that.
So
As we said,
yeah,
right?
it's applicable for certain things. So see, for example, let's talk about any other resource. For example, I have a storage account. Okay, let me say. Okay, so I'm just for testing training purpose, I'm just creating something here. Just answer your question. Suresh storage. Okay, it says there are some high uppercase. Suresh storage 01. Okay, I'm just creating it as a local return. Just understand the concept. Don't get too much carried away. I'm just answering his question in a practical way, only that much. Okay, let me just help him understand the concepts clearly. Okay, so you have the option called some data protection. You can also enable recycle bin to protect any kind of erroneous deletion or modification. This can be done. Okay, let me just do this first. It's running validation. Okay, give me a second. It takes it time to validate. Meanwhile, okay, yeah, it's creating. Meanwhile, I'll go and create one more storage account. See, until the deployment has started, see, initializing means it is trying to trigger, but only after the deployment has started, then you need to go out of the screen. Okay, otherwise you might the resource might get rolled back. Okay, see, meaning, see, now it is submitting the deployment. It is still the orchestrator has not accepted the deployment yet. It is still submitting. Now, after deployment has started, you can go back to the previous screen or do anything. So if you are going in between, sometimes the resources might not be deployed, or the creation might be interrupted in between. Okay, I'm just giving another name, and I'm just saying, so don't worry about the options and all those things for now. I'm just quickly answering question from Suresh. Okay, so resource lock, it's mainly for enabling some kind of protection. Okay, it's a kind of protection option to avoid any accidental. It can be done at the subscription level. It can be done at the what we call resource group level. So lock can be done at every single level. Okay, even you can go to your resource group. Even at the resource group here, you will have the lock here. So you have locks resource group. You have options of lock and the subscription level. You can do it on every level. See, for example, I'll show you this resource group, and in the resource group, I can go and enable the lock here. And when I enable the lock here, it gives me the list of options where exactly the scope is applied, whether it is at the VM level or whether it is at the resource level. This is like resource group level lock. Just for identification, I'm just adding this term here. Resource group level lock. So I can just say don't delete any resources within this. Okay, so it has added the lock at the resource group level scope. So the scope means the hierarchy. Okay, whether you are creating the restriction at the protection at the management group level or subscription level or resource group level, we can do it at all the level. The scope is the levels of the resources. Okay, now if I go to my storage account, See, if I want to just select the storage account, and if I want to delete this, if I go to the lock here, you will automatically see that lock is getting inherited. See, you can see that this lock was not created here, but there is a parent resource lock that cannot be edited here. If you want to edit it, you have to go to the resource group and edit it there. But if I want to delete it, this resource cannot be deleted because the inheritance is happening here. So it will say that there is a kind of lock cannot be deleted because this resource or its parent has a delete lock. It will be clearly telling you. So you need to remove the lock, or you need to move the resources in order to delete it. Okay, that's the important thing. You can also have a kind of inheritance happening from the hierarchy. Okay, resource cannot be deleted because the parent or the root has got a lock. So if you want to override this, you can go to the parent. You can go and delete that specific lock which you have created. Go and delete this lock. Now you will be able to go and delete the resources which is under that. So Suresh's question was how to recover it. For example, I have deleted this accidentally. Okay, I've by mistake, I have gone into this. Okay, it is asking for me to type the name. I'll just type it quickly. Okay, I've deleted it. So it has deleted the storage account. Okay, so meaning whatever the contents within that, all those things will get deleted. But Microsoft has also given you some kind of options. For example, you can go and recover the deleted accounts here. Okay, it will give you the option to recover the resources that you recently deleted, or it got recently deleted. See, it is showing me that STG001 has got recently deleted within last 14 days, and I'll be able to recover it. Meaning it will go and recreate that 01 account as a recovery option. So definitely Microsoft gives you option to certain resources or to certain aspect, but not for all of them. But it's definitely your responsibility as a customer to safeguard all your resources. There are some options that they give, but not for everything. Clear?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No
And
worries.
this is Ravi. This is Ravi.
Yeah.
You said
Yes,
we
Ravi.
can recover the deleted resources. So what is the time limit? How many days we'll be able to
14 days.
recover those? 14 days, not more than that, right?
Yeah.
So suppose if I want to recover let's say a disk or a VM or a resource after 14 days, should I approach Microsoft as a special case?
No.
Will there be any
No.
done? Nothing done.
No option. No option. No. I mean, they can, but again, they don't encourage it. They never support it.
Okay.
Yeah. They might have
And
options to
bro,
go and do recover at the storage and get you something, but they generally don't encourage it unless there is a kind of pressurized situation where government organization has got impacted, something like that. There might be some options which we have never um, been given that option. But when we go and ask for it, they generally say if you have backup, you can restore it, or else there is no other option. That's the simple way they do it. After the 14 days of it's a kind of recycle bin, I would say. Okay, so where you can go and kind of it's a kind of location where it will be stored for some number of days. It's a kind of instant recovery option. Go ahead, Tamarikanan.
bro, are we enabling this option somewhere while we creating a storage account, or is it applicable for VM also?
Not for VM. Yeah, that's why I took the example of storage account, right? It's not applicable for VM. For VMs, you have to take a backup at the virtual machine level or at the image level.
For storage also we have backup.
Yeah, we have backup for storage, all the contents. Yes. Definitely storage data is the important thing that we need to backup, right? So definitely storage data has got the option to get backed up. Yes.
One minute, bro. Can you show that option where we are enabling this recycle bin while creating?
That's the soft delete option. See, at the resource level, it's at the management option here. See, if you go to the data protection, here is where you enable the soft delete for 7 days for your blobs, for your containers, for your file share. You give the soft delete option enabling. This is at the actual content level within the storage container or storage account. You have the option to increase or decrease this. But whatever the storage account, it's by default. At the storage account level, it is by default. You don't have to do anything explicitly. But at the content level, at the data level, even you have the same soft delete option. We'll explore that. No worries. Okay, I just answered to that question. I know, like, if I show something practically, a lot of questions will be provoked, a lot of questions will be asked, but I just answered his question that I mean, he should not answer like that in the interview, right? If someone is trying to ask Suresh the same question, he should not say only backup is the option. So that's the thing that I want to convey. That, I mean, even Microsoft gives you some level of options, but not for all the resources. There are some resources which can be restored if in case we accidentally deleted it or whatever.
Okay, bro. Got it, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, no issues. Okay, guys, I think we need some break here to take some tea and come back. Okay, I'll stop the recording. Okay, after for
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, team, for joining back. So we'll continue here. So okay, so we have been discussing in order to create a resource in Azure platform, we need to have certain things, right? So that's what we have been discussing. You need to have an active account. Okay, that is mandatory. Active account is mandatory. And management group, this is optional. This is only needed when you have multiple subscription. And subscription, it is again mandatory. We need to have an active subscription. And that is important. And resource group is also a mandatory field. Okay, without these three components, without an active account, without an active subscription and a resource group, you cannot create a resource. Okay, and when you go and create an account, it's mainly for enabling you a relationship with the provider. Okay, but if you want to create resources, then you definitely need to purchase a subscription. And if you need to have some kind of technical support, you need to have the support plan. See, for example, we discussed about the different plans other day, right? We discussed about basic, developer, professional, direct, standard, and all those things the other day. And if you remember, okay, I told in the basic free tier category, you don't get any kind of technical support. Meaning, if there is any issue with your account that you're not able to log in, or if there is some billing that accidentally got listed in your account, so you can raise a case on the account related and billing related stuff. But if you need any kind of technical support, you need to have a support plan. Either it can be a developer support plan, or a standard, or a professional direct, or a enterprise plan. But in order to get tech support, you need to have a support plan. Okay, and let's do one thing. Let's go and create a subscription. Okay, so in order to create a subscription, you need to go to the account, go and type in subscription here. Okay, and you can go and add a new subscription. So here, there are a lot of different subscriptions that are available. There are a lot of offers that are available for different organization. So when I say a lot of different organization, not everyone is going to use it for organization purpose. Some might be using it for their university student, and they might need some offers for student. Some people, they might create the subscription for some proof of concept, or for some kind of testing. Some people might be trying to do some development activities and do some application development. And some people might be using it for training like me and all those things, right? So there are different use cases. There are different requirements for which we need to have a subscription. And based on that, Microsoft gives you a lot of different options. See, if you want to improve the quality of your student, and if you want to give them cloud experience, there is a separate subscription on offer called Azure for Students. You can also get that. This is a very good option. Similarly, there are a lot of different offers and options available for different use cases. Okay, let me just do this. Sorry, yeah. So if you scroll down, you can look at all the options. Okay, if you want to just do some activity for your organization, or if you want to do something like Azure sponsored testing, or if you want to explore something, there are a lot of different opportunities available, there are different subscriptions available. Okay, based on your business need, based on your opportunity, whether if you want to run some business critical workload, then you need to go for the standard support model where you get 24/7 technical support and all those things. So we discussed about this last Sunday, right? So we discussed about the different support model: standard support, professional, direct, enterprise support, and so on. So let's go and create a subscription here. So how about there were two people, right? One was Narayanan, and have you guys created the subscription, or you are still waiting for my direction to go ahead and do that? Shall we go and create a subscription, Narayanan?
No, not yet.
Okay,
Stan.
I'll
I'm
share
waiting
your
for it.
screen. Yeah, let
Okay.
me make you a presenter. Let's go and create a subscription. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'm
let's start.
here now.
So the first option you have to select, start with the Azure free trial. So for the first 30 days, you will get the $200 credit. So you know, right? Indian rupees is kind of having a lot of challenges against US dollars. Now you might get more currency, which is good. Okay, one way that you get earlier, last year we used to get only 13,300 rupees. Now the currency conversion has changed. So yeah, just give. Okay, still it is 13,300. Interesting. Okay, good. Okay, you can just, it's an optional. Yeah, this is again, that's fine. Okay, so this is the email ID. You can give your phone number. You will get the notifications and all those things. So country code is not needed because you're going to select the location. Okay, yeah, just give it as option to text you. They will send you a code to verify your mobile. So now we are doing the verification of your number. The very first thing they do is verifying your mobile number, so that they make sure that you have a legitimate connection, network connection, or telecom provider connection in your region, because some people might misuse it also, right? So there are some people who actually go and create a lot of different things and misuse it. So to avoid some kind of misuse, they want to understand whether you have a phone connection. So they will be sending you the code. Have you clicked on that?
Yes, I clicked it, but I haven't received anything yet.
No, I don't think so. Can you click one more time? Yeah, now it has. Yeah, you will
Oh,
get it now. Yeah, perfect. So you can verify it. It's a 6-digit number. Now you can go ahead and enter your details of, I mean, you can just give whatever you want. You don't have to give the exact details. You can just give whatever you want. Yeah. And you can give PAN ID is optional. Yeah. Address, you can give your address. So address line 1 is important. You can just at least give something like some location or whatever. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So address line 2, 3 are optional. City you can give. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. You can select the state. Yeah. You can give the postal code. Now you are agreeing to the subscription agreement. If you want to learn the terms and conditions, you can go and open it in a separate window, and you can open the privacy statement, subscription agreement, and you can understand it better. If in case you are talking to any customers, like you can also ask them, insist them to read the agreement terms and conditions properly and go next. Okay, so it's not mandatory to allow Microsoft to share your information. If you don't want Microsoft to share your information with their partners, you can leave the second option open, and you can click on next. Yes. Okay. If you have selected the second option, Microsoft will send the details of the account creation and the subscription selection to their regional partners. For example, they will send across to some of their partners like Redington or TCS or whoever it is, whoever they are partners in India, they will be getting notification. So next, we are going to verify your card details. Okay. So there are two. Okay. Now what I will do is, okay, since we are going to enter some important information, I'm going to unshare your screen. Okay. Once after you enter your card details and CVV number and all those things, let me know. I'll make you a presenter again.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think many of you know, right, that what exactly is the difference between credit card and debit card, right? So in debit card, the numbers will be embossed, and whereas in credit card, the numbers will be exposed, right? For example, see what I'm talking about here is credit versus debit card. In some debit card itself, you will see the numbers are kind of visible outside. If you just touch the numbers, it will be you'll be able to kind of see it. See, for example, the credit card, the numbers will be embossed, like you will be able to see it on the top. The numbers will be outside. And in a debit card, the numbers will be inside the card. It will be it's an impressed option. Okay, so in some of the debit card, you also get the numbers little, embossed. So which means even that can have some pre-credit limit. Even you can use some of the debit card also. Okay, so let's see. So once you I enter the details, once you select next, let me know.
Yeah, I done that.
You have done that, right? Let me make you a presenter again. Just for your security purpose, I just stopped your sharing. Okay, now you are again a presenter. You guys can also enter your debit card or credit card details similarly. And once after you enter all the details, you will also get a notification, OTP. Yeah, you can enter that. So they are going to charge you 2 Indian rupees, just 2 Indian rupees. And after 3 to 5 business days, this 2 rupees will come back to your account. In some cases, okay, Microsoft or like the card provider here, for example, you are using SBI card or something, right? So SBI might call you to inquire what is the purpose of the account creation, whether you are going to start a business or whether going to use it for professional purpose or some personal account. You can just confirm them, because like they have options to get you different card or different account, so that you get it used for professional level, and there are some savings also you will get. So definitely, like if it is SBI card, they might call you Narayanan, and they might ask you what is the purpose of account creation in Microsoft Cloud Platform. You can tell them I'm going to do some personal learning here, so it's for my training purpose, and I'm not going to use it for professional. So they want to understand whether if it is for professional, they will give you better options. That's the only reason they will call you. Okay, just sign up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's wait, and it's confirming your information. Scroll down and click submit. Yeah, once it is available, you can click on submit. It's still validating. So there are 2 verifications, right? One is to verify your mobile number, and the second verification is again against your card. So you entered your debit card or credit card, Narayanan?
A credit card.
Okay, credit. Okay, good. Okay. So now you are ready to create resources. See, now you are able to start a project now. You can go and set up a database, or you can go and deploy a VMs. You can do anything. So go and click on the, oh, see, you have got 14,500 credit, which is very good. So I thought like it was still 13,300. No, it is not the case. So $200 into the current currency conversion, you are getting 14,500 rupees, which you can use for practicing the first 30 days. Okay, and go to the top left menu, click on that home, or click on that option, and go to one of the resources and start trying create it. You can create any resource. Maybe create resource group. Yeah. See, if you want to create anything, okay, just click on create resource group. Yeah. It will ask for 2 details. One is whether you should have an active account to log in, and it will mandatorily ask for the subscription. Without subscription, you will not be able to create a resource group, right? So what I will do here, 1 minute, you can try and create it. You can see whether you are able to successfully create it. Meanwhile, I'll just open up something here and start sharing from my side. Any questions from anyone on how to create a subscription or how to create an account so far? Okay,
Yeah,
feel free to
Stalin.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you already confirmed like other virtual card is not allowed right now, right? Because earlier I heard some Paytm and ICICI like they are providing some virtual card kind of system.
No, not allowed now. Yes.
Okay, and if I use my credit card already for AWS or Azure earlier, can I use it again?
Yeah, some cases yes, but in certain cases they are able to get it understood. I mean, in some cases yes, but not always. Okay, in certain cases you are able to reuse it with multiple phone numbers and Gmail ID. But in some cases they are able to catch it, and in general they actually store most of the details that you are entering, like Gmail ID and the phone number. They will store it for at least 3 years, I guess, 2 to 3 years. They are having it. You cannot reuse it within that time frame, but you can try the card. Actually, card, I think it might work I've heard like it has worked for some of them, but if you are lucky enough, it might work, but not always.
And also, at least if you create one VM, and if it is if even if you shut down also, is there a chance of it will charge
Yeah,
the amount
there are
after
charges.
14
I'll
days?
explain that. Yeah, I'll explain that. There are charges. Okay. So now let me make myself as a presenter, Narayanan. Thank you for helping out on showing how to create the subscription. That really helps us. Okay, and for your question, yes, there are charges. Okay, so I'll explain that when we get into that. See, there are two levels of charges for a virtual machine. See, when you talk about, you are talking about VM, right? So in a VM, maybe I'll just quickly answer, but don't ask more questions on this. I'll be explaining it a little later. So if you create a VM, there are compute charges. For example, for your CPU cycles or virtual CPU or memory utilization or for network traffic. So for all these things, there are some charges. So compute charges are there. And again, you also have storage charges. Okay, so when I say storage charges, you need to have your operating system and you need to have OS disk, which might be like 30 GB or 100 GB or whatever. You might have data disk and so on. So when you switch off the VM, when you power off the VM, you stop using the compute cycles. You are stop using the CPU, memory, and network, but still you are storing the data in Azure platform. So you will still continue to get charges for your storage cost. And if you have got some public IPs which you have reserved, or if you have got some public IPs you have purchased, that will also continue to get charged. So there are different charges, my friend. You need to understand compute charges, storage charges, and network charges. And for your question, I have switched off my VM. Still, still will I get any charges month by month? Yes, you will get for storage and the public IP from the network level. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So if any trial version, if you're trying, we have to remove all the VMs and other resource group, right?
Yeah, see, for free trial, you are getting that 14,500 rupees credit, right? So you can create whatever you want to, but if you want to effectively use it, okay, if you want to just use it usefully, you can just remove the VMs after you practice. Okay, so for example, after the day, for example, if you are only practicing during the weekend, so if you are running the VMs during the week, it is going to incur cost. What you can do is you can just delete that VM after practicing, and you can recreate it in the next Saturday or whenever you are planning to practice yourself.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So see, whatever resources we go and create, as I said, there are two things. Okay. The number one thing is you need to have a subscription active, and we need to have a resource group for the other resource to get created. So as I said, resource group, it's a folder to contain related resources together. Okay, so that's what we discussed some time back in the morning, right? We talked about a resource group, subscription, and the hierarchy here. So now I'm going to create a resource group here. So resource group is primarily to group the resources together. For example, as I said, it can be for an application, or it can be for an environment, or it can be for different purposes. Okay, let me just increase the font. Okay, any other questions from anyone so far?
Stan, just a question. Regarding the free credit, right? Is it applicable for Singapore as well? I don't see that free credit.
What's your name?
Prabhu.
Prabhu, you are from Singapore location, right? See, certain
Yeah,
locations, they are actually not asking for any kind of validation and so on. Okay, so if you go and create an account, automatically you'll get a free subscription created along with that. You don't need to enter anything. So maybe as part of your Singapore location, you get that advantage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even I got confused. This is Magesh.
Yeah,
My
Magesh.
subscription, like when I click on the add symbol, it says like you have to upgrade the subscription level. But I could see the default subscription name like Azure subscription number 1.
Yeah. You are in which location, Magesh?
Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yeah. See, Canada, Singapore, and a few more countries, you get the benefit of you don't have to create anything. Yeah, it automatically gets you the subscription created. You get a free subscription. You don't have to validate yourself by phone number, or maybe I'm not sure. Maybe the terrorism level or whatever the country, it's maybe in a green zone that they are allowing you to do. I mean, without validation, without verification. So I know there are some countries where you don't have to go and create subscription. You get a free subscription along with the account itself.
Got that. Like, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the plus symbol, like it says like basic developer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. In some countries, subscription gets created automatically. Yeah. So example, Singapore, even in UAE also, I guess. Yeah. Okay then. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, let's go here and see. As I said, we need a mandatory subscription before we can go and create any resources. Even the resource group, before you create it, you need a active subscription. So resource group has to be created under the subscription hierarchy. Okay, so as a solution architect, as a kind of senior person, you have to tell the operations team or the project build team on what are the naming convention that they need to follow. See, if you leave it to a different person, they will create whatever fancy name that they want to. So in an organization, you need to have a proper naming convention. You need to have a proper naming standard. That is very, very important to identify what is the purpose we are creating for. You might have to have some proper naming. Without that, it's going to be a very huge challenge. See, for example, to help you with that particular thing, I'm giving you a kind of template which you can use for creating the resources. Okay, so if you go and create a resource in your organization, you can use this as a template. You can use this as a starting point. So it's better to have the resources created with a proper construct. For example, it can have some business unit, it can contain some application name, or it can contain some deployment environment name, or it can also contain region. So region is not mandatory. If you are having only one region, or if you are creating resources in a specific location, you can ignore the region. But if your organization is global, you can also include the region name there. And similarly, like if you have only one environment, you don't have to include this. So based on organization to organization, you can give some specific naming convention like it. For example, I want to create a resource group. So I'm giving some examples here. So resource group can be named like this. So resource group hyphen, the purpose of the resource group, it's used for SharePoint servers and it's production SharePoint servers, and some numbers here. So you can give some meaningful numbers or names like this. I've given some format, I've given some examples, and also you've got some strategy, or you can use a kind of combination to build the construct. Okay, so it's not that everyone has to follow this, but it's a good practice to always start the name with that resource type. For example, if you are creating a resource group, it's better to start it with RG so that you can understand what exact resource we are talking about. Okay, so for an example here, I want to create a resource group for a kind of financial application, and within financial business unit, I want to create it for some application server, and whether I want to create it for production or development or testing, I can give some characters. So you can also limit 2 characters or 3 characters so that you don't have a very lengthy name. You do not type it 20 characters. It allows to create you with multiple I think it allows how much 255 characters or something, but it's better to limit as much as possible. And I can give some numbers if you are planning to create more resource group. So always define the naming convention. So naming convention definition will come from the leadership team, now you are not going to do it, but as a build engineer, as a kind of operations team, it's better to understand what exactly the strategy framework behind that naming convention, how they have adopted that names. Okay, it's better to have this for your reference, so that if in case you are creating certain things, you can adhere to that policy. See, for example, after I created, if I look at the name, I should be able to understand what exactly this resource group is meant for, whether it is meant for application servers, or only for production or non-production, or whether it is intended for financial department or HR department. I need to understand what exactly the purpose of this resource group is for. Okay, give me a second, guys. I'll just start in this call. Sorry about it.
Stanley, I'm unable to hear you.
Sorry, guys. I told I received a important call. That's why I went on mute. Sorry about it. Sorry for keeping on hold. I'm back here on audio. Is it okay? Is it clear now?
It's clear. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kanagraj, for confirming. Okay, so what I told is, in order for any resources to be created, have a naming convention document defined. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm giving you some kind of template which you can start using it as a starting reference. I'm uploading these templates into the SharePoint, into the Google Drive. You can download it and modify it based on your organization, and you can set your author name, and you can have your own template or your own kind of naming convention document. So it is very important to design the names for your resources. Okay, but you are not going to do it as an implementation engineer. But if you are part of the engineering team or a design team or architecture team, you need to define this properly. If you're not defining it properly, it will create unnecessary confusions, and even you might go and delete a wrong resource, or you might go and apply wrong permissions to different resources. So your resources should have proper naming convention. So as I said earlier, if I go and delete some resources here, it will delete the complete, if I go and delete the resource group, it will delete all the resources within that. Okay, so for example, if I'm deleting this resource group, whatever resources within this, it will all get deleted. Okay, so just be careful when you create and delete resources. You have to be a little careful about it. So now let's do one thing. So I've got multiple resources here within this resource group. Okay, if I want to add more resources, I can go and create resource here. It will give us what exactly you are going to create, whether you want to create a Ubuntu server, or whether we want to create a SQL database, or what exactly you are planning to create. It gives us the option to choose the category and the product within that. Okay, so in order to create any resource, you need to have a subscription and the resource group. These are the two basic mandatory elements that are completely required in order to create it. For example, I want to go and create a virtual machine now. So if I go and click create VM under the compute service, under the compute category, you can see that these two are mandatory. See, you have an asterisk here. These are all required option, required field. So I can go and select the thing that I just created today, right? I can go and start typing it. If you have multiple resource groups, I can say resource group hyphen finance team, and I can select the specific resource group. So once after I select it, you can see, for example, I have created this resource group in a particular location. Okay, I think I selected it in East US location. I can confirm it. I'll just go and quickly validate it. Okay, going to home, going to the resource group. So if you look at here, the specific resource group which we are talking about, the resource group finance, it has got created in East US. So when I go and select that resource group, automatically the region will change to East US. For example, if I go and select something like Muthu ARG, which is in West US, automatically, so if I go and select that other one, see if you look at here, if I go and select where exactly those things are, Muthu or something like that. So it will change the region to West US. So by default, wherever the resource group is located, it will automatically change the resource region to that particular location. But it's not mandatory that you have to create the resources in the same region. You can also go and create the resources in other region also. For example, I can go and select East US2 for my actual virtual machine resource. Okay, that's the answer I gave some time back also, right? But by default, you have to be very clear that when you select a resource group, automatically the region will change based on the resource group location. Okay, so basic mandatory thing
Can,
before.
can
Go ahead.
we rename the resource group? I created by mistake. So can I rename that?
Before adding any resources, yeah, you will be able to do it. But again, after you have some resources created within it, it's not going to allow you.
Okay, now I have not added any resources. No?
Yeah, now I mean, if that is the case, you can also go and create a resource group with proper name.
Okay, okay, no issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Stan, one question related
Yeah.
to this Visual Basic subscription. So I also have that subscription. So is there anything related to that when I'm creating a resource group, it's showing not showing India as a region. So is there anything particular with this subscription?
Okay, so there are some locations where the data center might be running of full capacity, especially after the pandemic. Cloud has been heavily used, right? So here, if I go and check India, I'm able to see India in my account. I can see Mumbai because it is recommended because there are multiple availability zone in central India. In Mumbai, I've got much better redundancy. In India, they are recommending to go and use Mumbai as much as possible. But I also have option to select Chennai and Pune. Are you not able to see this?
I was just creating the resource group. I'm not not went for that virtual machine creation. So
Okay.
under the resource, when I'm creating resource group under the regions, it's not showing as India. So that's why.
Oh, okay, got it, understood. So let me check. Let me go back one step, and I'll try to do that for me. Okay.
No, it says Asia South Pacific. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I have to search it. It is not showing by default, I think.
It should, but the name list is huge. So you have got that many regions in Azure platform,
Okay,
so that you
got
are
it.
not able to select it. Maybe you are trying it from a smaller screen or something like that. It doesn't give you the option to select it, but it does definitely gives all of them. But in some cases, you might not be able to select it. For example, see for me, everything is visible. If in case you are not able to select specific region, if it is grayed out, possibly the particular location they are already running out of capacity and then don't want the free tier category people to go and create it. Okay, so now the answer that I'm conveying is your resource group can be in one location and your resources can be from another region also. Okay, so just be aware of that, and I'm going to create a resource now. Yeah, go ahead.
Stalin, based on that region, is there any pricing factors will be differ instead of US? I'm selecting India.
Yeah.
Is there
So last
anything?
week, maybe Kanagraj, you missed. You were not part of the last week's session, right? Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
There is a definite costing difference. If you go to the pricing calculator in Azure portal, okay, you definitely have a lot of difference in pricing come between different region. Okay, for example, if I go and check the pricing for a VM or a specific thing I mean, not just for virtual machine, for almost all the resources, the backend IT infrastructure, the real estate, the manufacturing cost, the local currency, a lot of difference are there, right? See, if I go and create something in the East US location, the same Windows VM with this particular 2 CPU and 8 GB, it is charging $137. Whereas if I go and create the same thing in maybe UK London location, it's $151. And similarly, if I go and create it something in UAE Central, it is 181. Rich people, right? So it's giving $181 for UAE. So it depends on the local infrastructure, real estate cost, manufacturing. They have to import most of the things in UAE, right? There might not be a lot of manufacturing for the servers, the components of IT, whatever, right? So there is a difference. There is a definite difference between choosing different region. But at the end, you have to choose the location which is closer to you, which is closer to your business operations. See, for example, last week I showed about the latency. So when you want to choose a particular location, you go and do a latency check, not just the ping alone. You can do an upload test, download test. You can do a lot of validation before you can choose which one is closer to you. See, for me, between Mumbai, Dubai, and the US, Mumbai is my closest region because I'm physically located in India. It says that you can better use this location. You have to do this testing from your business data center, from your gem server in your organization, not from your local PC. Your local PC might be in some location, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do before you choose it. But yeah, maybe please, I know you got added
Got it.
little recently. Yeah,
Sure.
so you can
Yeah. Thank you.
just go through that when you get some time, please. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Sure.
So
Thank you.
okay, so any other question from anyone? Go ahead.
Sir, so after creating the resource group only, we'll be going to the
Allowed to create
management.
a resource. Yeah. After creating the subscription and resource group, you will be allowed to create a resource. See, because like this will be empty, right? Without the subscription or
No, you
without
were
resource
referring
group.
to the hierarchy account
Yeah.
management. So that's it.
Correct. See, first you
Subscription
need to
can
create an
follow.
account. First, you need to create an account. I have logged into Azure. Without an account, I will not be able to log into Azure portal itself. Okay. First, I need an account. Then I need a subscription in order for me to create a resource or deploy a resource. And I need a resource group to group the resources properly. So these are all the mandatory things. Okay. So in order for any resources to be created, I need account, subscription, and resource group mandatorily. These are the three basic things that I need. But management group is needed only when you have multiple subscriptions and you're not able to manage it properly. You can just use management group. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. Any other question from anyone?
Stan,
yeah.
Regarding the VNet, VNet will come under the resource group, right? So we'll be creating multiple VNet under the resource group, is it?
Yes. We will be creating multiple virtual networks under the resource group, and we'll see that. Yeah. So there are certain things that we need to understand. We have at least 3 to 4 days of minimum 3 to 4 days of session on network. You'll get to understand a lot of details around it. Yes. So, but your question, your answer, I mean, whatever you told is right. You have to create virtual network under the resource. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Everything is a resource. So virtual network is a resource. Is there any limitation for free account? Yeah, we have a limitation, right? As I told you at the beginning of the session, we saw something there, right? Even we can only create certain things. Oh, okay. So maybe the other question is if you want to, sorry guys. One minute. Okay, so there are some limitations. See, if I go to my subscription here, by default in your Visual Studio or in your free subscription, there are some quotas which are applicable. Okay, if you look at here, there are some usage limit or quota limit. By default, in each region, in each location, you are entitled to create only a specific number of CPU or specific number of virtual network or specific number of VMs. So you have the quota here. For example, you can create only 1,000 virtual network in East US region. Similarly, in another region, you will be allowed to create only specific numbers. For example, I'm allowed to create only 1,000 stuff in the other locations and so on. Okay, so you can just go and filter which providers you are looking at, and these are all actually soft limit. These are not hard limit, meaning if I have reached the limit for this, for example, I can select the network watcher and I can go and request for increase. So the Microsoft support person will talk to us and ask how much you want to change, whether I want to change it to 300 or 500. Definitely there is a hard limit also. Microsoft cannot allow us to go beyond a specific limit, but whatever you are seeing here, there is a default soft limit that gets applied here. So there is a usage quota that gets implied on your subscription level. So definitely there is a usage restriction. There is a default quota that is available, and that is a soft quota, meaning it's not going to stop you from increasing it. There is an option to request increase, and you can work with the Microsoft Azure support agent, and they will help you to increase the limit. Did I answer your question? I think Saravanan, right? Okay, so what are the other questions in the chat? This question for infra level, so under VNet will be having resource group, right? No. So it's the other way around. Under the resource group, you'll have the virtual network. Virtual network is again a resource. Okay, so I see some people are infected with flu and all those things. Okay, sorry to hear that. Yeah, definitely there are a lot of seasonal flu and virus spread. Okay, so I think, okay, I think these are the questions. Yeah, okay, fine. So what else?
Stan,
Go ahead.
is this
Yeah.
quota applicable for the free trial subscription as well, or?
Yes. Yeah, very much applicable for your free tier also. If you go to your free tier subscription, if you go to the usage and quotas, you will be able to see the numbers there. Yeah.
I don't see anything here this way. I see the usage.
Shall I make you a presenter? Are you willing to share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Karthikeyan. MNOPQR. 1 second. Give me a second, Karthik. Karthikeyan Nadraj. Okay, you are a presenter now. You will be able to get an option to share your screen now.
Okay, so let me share my screen here. This window right here.
Okay, yeah. So you don't have any utilization as of now. What do you call, Karthik? Okay, so let me,
Just I created a resource group here. That's it.
Okay.
And
Go to usage and quotas, and let's see if you have some filters already. Okay, all locations is fine, and you have got filter at the compute level. If you look at the third filter on the top, you have filtered by compute.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to select all of them, even the other resources.
Let's
You can
clear all. Let's see.
No, not clear all. You have to select all.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you will start getting the limits.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Let me share my screen. No worries. Yeah. Okay, so you have to just select what you want to see, whether you want to see the limits of network or whether you want to see the limits of storage. So based on that, you will be able to see the different categories here.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, and also you can see the filter by the region, and also you'll be able to see the filter by the items only. Okay, with the current usage level. Okay, so you have the option to see it in free tier and all the categories, even on the production usage, you can also see it. Okay, let's go and create the VM now, and I'll just give it a name. I will say it's a kind of financial. Maybe I'll follow the same my document here, right? I'll go to here and then see what exactly I'm referring for the virtual machine. I can use one of the sample here. Okay, possibly this is the good naming convention. I'll say virtual machine. It can start with VM. So definitely it's a VM, and I will say it's a financial server, and it's a app server, and I will say 001. Okay, if in case you want to have a different location also captured, you can say East US or East US 2, whatever you want to give, you can just give that there. Okay, so for an example. Okay, so your name should have to be meaningful, and also there are some limitation when it comes to virtual machine, or there are some net bias limitation, right? So you can have only 15 characters or whatever. So whatever name that you are entering here, this name will be changed inside the operating system also. Unlike your AWS, here in Azure platform, whatever name you are entering here, it will go and get changed inside the host name as well within your operating system. I'll show you that. And also you will get the option to create your own administrator name. So whatever name that you are entering here, this name will be going and changing the local administrator. So Stan will be the local administrator now. So this is the administrator account. So this is a best practice from Microsoft, right? Microsoft doesn't want to use the default administrator name. Instead, they want to give your own organization preference. Maybe in organization, we might use something like IBM admin or whatever naming convention you want to give. Okay, so now I've given this username and password. So I can just select whatever capacity I want. I'll explain all these things in much better details. Don't worry about it. So now I've just selected,
Stan,
given,
one
go ahead. Yeah.
One clarification. So
Yes,
similar to AWS, do we have any free tier VMs available for
Yeah,
our study
So
purpose?
in AWS, we have got the T2 micro or the T1 micros, right? So
Yeah.
here we have got the B1S, which is for free of cost. Okay, at the beginning of the session, it was explained. So B1S it's free of cost for you. I mean, you are not going to pay anything. It can be used for 750 hours, exactly same like your AWS. If you're running B1S for 750 hours, it's free of cost.
Okay, so this is not only applicable for the free account, right? Even for the
Yeah,
pay as
even
you
after
go
you
model
change,
also.
yeah, exactly. Even after you change it to pay-as-you-go model, this particular services, resources is free of cost, yes. So if you look at here, under the free category, you can go and see under the pay-as-you-go model, which are the ones which are free. Like if you look at here, the Azure virtual machines, the B1S VMs are free of cost for 750 hours. Not always, but only for 750 hours.
Mhm. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So if
also
you look at
like
here, yeah.
certain, yeah, and also certain VMs, they are also charging on hourly basis. So even if I create and delete within a 5-10 minutes also, it will be chargeable, right?
Correct. So it's see the pricing forecast, the estimate will be given on a hourly basis. See, for example, if I go and create this, so per hour it is they are saying like it is 13 Indian rupees per hour. Okay, it is 13.83. Okay, it is 13 Indian rupees per hour. The estimate will be given for hourly range, but the actual billing will happen per minute. Okay, for example, if you have ran the machine only for 10 minutes, the 13 rupees will be divided by the actual 10 minutes and you will be charged only for per minute usage. Okay, so it's like per actual usage, and some resources are per second also, but in general, the forecast is given hourly basis and actual billing will be on per minute usage, or some resources are per second usage also. If it is like some Azure functions, or if it is like some microservices, it gets billed on a per minute or a second usage only. Okay, for example, only for 10 minutes, you will be charged. Yeah.
Okay. And for any of the logical configuration, it will be not chargeable, right? Like resource group
Correct. For
creation
resource
or
groups, for correct. For some of the logical grouping, there is no charge at all. So those are all always free of cost. Like these are all logical containers, right? Logical folders. So they are not going to charge you anything for virtual network, for resource group, for storage account. So those are all not going to consume any capacity in Microsoft data center. It's a logical entity. So for resource group, for storage account, for virtual network, for all these things, it is free of cost. Yeah.
okay, got it. Thank you, Stan. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
proceed.
no problem. Yeah. This group, virtual network.
It's 10 I wasn't here.
Yeah, it's Vasan.
Still, like resource group, if it is not created in the beginning, so and directly if you want to go and create a virtual machine, so will it again a default
Yeah,
resource
no,
group?
you have to definitely create one. You cannot have this field empty. You cannot have this field empty. You have to go and create something here. If you have
Means
not
default
create,
there will be nothing, right?
Yeah, default nothing. See, if I, for example, if there is nothing, I can click on this create new and I can just give it a name, finance app development 001. I can type something and click OK. Automatically that will be selected here. If you don't have anything, you also have the option to create a new resource group here. You can either
because
have
I
it
don't
created.
remember, like I created virtual machine, but resource group I did not created. I was
Yeah,
able to create
automatically it
virtual
will give it
machine.
a name. You have done it now, or you are talking about previous cases?
No, just like some 15-20 days back.
You created it now, right? So automatically it should have created a default resource group. So I'll make you a presenter and you can share your screen. We'll see that. So it might have created a default resource group. Without that, it will not create any resources. By default, it might have taken the name of your virtual machine and it might have created that resource group. So you can share your screen. You have the option to select share screen and you can share it.
No, my this got already expired account. I cannot
Oh,
do it.
you are talking about previous experience. Yeah, yeah. So see, I'll show you that in my account. Okay, see that when you go and create something, for example, I'm not bothered about what exactly I'm. See, let me just create. Let's do one thing. Let me create something which is very quick. So if I go and create a storage account, okay, I don't want to select some what you call resource group. And if I don't have any existing resource group, it will automatically pick up some name, some random name based on whatever you are entering for storage account, and it will create that resource group. You got it, right? So either you
Yeah,
can give it.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
But,
one more thing, like you earlier you said I got a confusion there. Like if you have a resource group in one region and the resources will be automatically changed to that region, like that you said, and later on you said
No,
resource
no.
group
So
can be.
see, what I'm saying is the default drop-down option, the default selection will change it to the location of the resource group. But your intention, if you are intending the VM to be created in different location, please make sure that you select the right region. That is the message I conveyed. So by default, if the
Okay.
resource group is in East US, automatically the region
Okay.
will also be East US. Yeah. And
Okay.
if
Okay.
in
Got
case
it.
you want to create the resource in India or Asia Pacific, make sure that you are changing the drop down option and you are selecting the actual location of the resource. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. So let me create this VM now. So let's see what exactly happens after the VM gets created. So once after the VM is created, okay, so you should wait for this initial deployment or initiating to complete. The initializing deployment and the submitting deployment has to complete. Then only you have to go out of the screen. Sometimes some people will start doing something else by clicking home and so on. Sometimes the deployment will roll back. Okay, so make sure that you wait at least for the deployment to be in progress. Now you can go and do whatever you want. So will go to the virtual machine listing. After I create a VM, I'll get two IP addresses by default. One IP address for private IP communication, which means you can use this IP address to communicate within Azure platform, within Azure cloud. You'll be able to communicate to this VM using this private IP. But if I want to connect to this Azure data center VM using from my laptop, from my home, or from my corporate data center, I need to use the public IP. Okay, so there are the different connectivity option, but for now, just understand this. I know like there are some VPN options and other things, but for now, if you want to connect to Azure Data Center VM, you need to use the public IP address because I'm connecting through the public internet. Okay, so now I can just enter the public IP here, whichever I have copied, and I'm going to access using remote desktop connection. This is the Windows server, right? So I'm using the remote desktop connection to connect to this Windows VM. If it is a Linux VM, I can use any SSH tools like PuTTY or whatever, PuTTY, whatever you call it. Okay, so let me copy this and let me enter it here. Some issue with my keyboard mouse here. Okay, let me just type it out quickly. 10.120.16.82. So I have to use the public IP address to connect to the VM, and it will ask for the username and password. So I have to enter my username, which I've given. So Stan, and the password for that. Okay, so I'm able to see the VM name. So which means automatically the certificate and the host name within the operating system, it got changed to whatever I have entered here. Okay, that happens automatically in Azure platform. So the VM creation will also go and run some scripts to change the inside host name aligned to the name that you have entered in the Azure portal. Okay, so now it is logging in. And once after you log in, you will start seeing the differences. So this VM, I think we gave some limited capacity. How much is this? Okay, this is the B1. Yes, it will be little slow. See, if you look at here, it has got only one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory. Whereas the other VM that we created, it is little size. It is larger size. If you look at here, it's D4. Yes, it has got 4 GB of CPU and 4 virtual CPU and 16 GB of memory. So this VM, you will be able to connect it faster, and it will also load much faster because of the size and the network capacity. It will be logging in very quickly. Okay, we can just test it down. So based on your resource assignment, the system will be loading up quickly. So if you look at here, comparing these two VMs, so if this VM is still getting loaded, okay, it's taking its own time, whereas I'm just going to compare it with the other VM which we just logged in. See, this VM is already logged in now. So this is 82, right? This is the other VM, and if you look at here, this VM is still loading. So based on your resource which you are providing, it will take the time to load. Okay, so now the 58 VM is it should be much faster because of the capacity. I'll use that VM for the demo. So if you look at here, it's already loaded, and I can just close all these things. I can go and check the name of the computer. If you look at the name of the virtual machine or the server, it has already changed it to the name that we gave on the Azure portal, Azure console. Okay, unlike your VMware environment or AWS environment, the host name will be changed here. That's an advantage with Azure. And if I want to go and check the capacity, that it's showing me like 16 GB of RAM, the 160 GB capacity of the disk. So all these are available here. And I told you that it will also change the local administrator name, right? By default, the default administrator name will be administrator, but it's a vulnerability, right? Because someone can try to use the default account name and they can try with random password. So what Microsoft does is it goes and renames the local administrator. This is the built-in account for administrating the computer. So they will change the local administrator name to whatever name that you have entered in the Azure VM creation portal. Okay, if I gave Stan, it will change it to Stan. Okay, so also, there are few more things that you can be aware of. By default, this account is a member of local administrator. So he can do anything on that particular VM. He can go and install application. He can go and change the policies. He can do anything because he is a local administrator. Okay, let me close this.
Sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
I'm hearing you.
Gopinath here.
Yes.
Through
Yes,
the
Gopi.
public IP, how many person can log in simultaneously?
It depends
In
on
the
your
VM?
operating system. So for example, if it is Windows, you have some default RDP licenses, right? 3 connections, including the admin console. So if it is a Linux server, unlimited connections using your SSH connectivity. So it depends on your operating system limits.
Okay.
If you want to use it for as a jump server or a bastion server, then you have to apply RDP licensing. You have to purchase RDP licenses based on the number of support people who are going to log in. You have to add the licensing within the operating system level, and you can connect with multiple client sessions.
Okay, so
okay. So if it is Linux, see, you can connect it quickly. See, for example, let's go and create a Linux machine here. Okay, so instead of Windows, I can just go and select a Linux VM. I can select whatever, for example, Ubuntu or whatever you want. You can select it. And you can see that if I'm not selecting anything, it is going and creating a new resource group. That is the question. I think I forgot his name. So he asked it, right? He did not enter anything or select anything, but the VM got created. It is going and creating a new resource group. which can be the name that I'm entering here. See, whatever name I'm going to enter here. So this is VM Linux, maybe. See, automatically it is giving its own name. That's what I was conveying earlier. Okay, so VM Linux East US, and I will say 001. Automatically the resource group name will be the name of the resource underscore group. Okay, if you are not entering something, it will automatically create its own name and it will create it, but it's not a good practice, right? It's better to use our own resource group and create it. So now I can just go and see automatically it has selected UK South. That is fine. Okay, and I can see by default it is giving Azure user as the name. So when you are creating Linux, you have two options. Either you can go and create a public key, private key combination like your AWS, or you can go and use the username and password like how you use in Windows platform. Similarly, in Linux also, you get the option to enter username and password. Okay, and by default, if you are using Linux operating system, it will allow you to allow the connection on SSH port. So SSH is the protocol or the port through which you will be connecting Linux machine, right? Similarly, if it is a Windows server, by default, it will go and allow connection through RDP 3389. So it is by default. But if you plan to allow some more traffic, for example, if I'm planning to use this virtual machine as a web server or an application server, based on that, you can go and allow additional port traffic here. By default, it will allow only 22. If I want to allow 443 or 80 or whatever, based on my server role, I can go and select the port that I need and I can go and create it. Okay, so once after I create it, I'll show you how to connect to the Linux VM and what are the different options that are available. Okay, so meanwhile, any other questions? See, ideally, Windows VM should be costlier than the Linux. But if you look at here, the Linux VM is $16 Indian rupees per hour compared to Windows. Okay, 1 minute, guys. I'm going on mute. I'll be unmuting myself in a minute. Okay, I'm back on audio. So yeah, so now the VM is getting created, and along with that, it will also go and create some other mandatory resources. So as you asked, see if I go and check the resource group, by default, it has created a resource group, VM Linux East US underscore group. So does this answer your question? Someone asked the question earlier, right? He did not select or he did not create any resource group, but automatically the VM got created. The reason is it will pick up its own name. Okay, it will automatically pick up its name with underscore group. Okay, so now I'll show you how to connect to this VM. See, the biggest advantage of the cloud platform is the agility, the speed, right? See, if you look at here, the time it took to create this VM. So if I go to this particular resource group, and if I look at the deployment time, it hardly took 51 seconds for creating this VM. Similarly, the other VM that we created, right, under the app service, the Windows VM, it hardly took around 1 minute, 18 seconds. Okay, the speed of the deployment is very quick, so it gets created from the template or the image much faster. Okay, now I can just go and connect to that VM. Less than 1 minute is super fast, right? In traditional days, we have to wait 6 months for getting a server created or getting a physical server deployed. Now it's happening less than a minute. So I'm just going to the Linux VM here. I'm going to copy the VM. So if you have some SSH tool already installed like Putty, you can use it. Or else if you are using some kind of browser, like example Chrome or Mozilla, you can also connect to this VM from the browser itself. I'll show you how to do that. So now I'm just opening it. It's connecting. I can just give my username and the password, and I'll be able to log into the Linux system. So this does not have any limitation. You can have multiple concurrent session from different user. There is no limitation. That's the advantage of Linux, right? And similarly, if you want to connect it from the browser, I don't want to, for example, I don't have access to install any kind of tools in my system. From my jump server, I can go to my Chrome, and I can also use the SSH free tool here. Okay, see, for example, I can go to the Secure Shell app within your browser, and I don't know, there is some issue with I have to recharge the keyboard. Okay, I can just go and start using this. Okay, so stan at IP address, and I can enter it. So I can log into my VM from the browser itself. I don't have to use a third-party tool, or I don't have to install any other application. Okay, I have the option to connect from the browser itself. Okay, I'm able to connect here, and I can see that the host name is already changed, and I'm already logged into the VM. So you can have multiple connections. You can connect it within the embedded browser option. You can actually connect it from your SSH client tool like Putty. There are hundreds of SSH tools. Okay, so this is how you generally connect to your virtual machines after you create it. So any questions? So if you look at here under the overview, you get to understand which resource group it is part of, which subscription it is part of. If I want to move it to another resource group, I have the option to move. If I want to move it to another subscription, I have the option to move it to another subscription. I also have the option to look at for example, the size of the VM, the CPU, memory, and then the disk capacity, all those things. And someone asked a question, right? For example, if I want to rename the resource group, the better option is to create a new resource group with the proper naming convention and move this VM to the other resource group. Ideally, like it's a kind of changing the name only. Okay, instead of changing the name of the resource group, you can either create a new resource group with a new name, and you can move this resource into that. That makes it much simpler. You don't need downtime. Okay, you don't have to stop the VM. It is an online moment. Yeah. So otherwise, by default, all the virtual machines that you create in the Azure platform, like your on-premises virtualization or Hyper-V or VMware, whatever, you also get some agent installed by default. Okay, so this agent is important for controlling the VM. So for example, like if you look at here, I have got the virtual machine generation and also got the agent status and all those things. Okay, so we have got 5 more minutes. I'll give you a few more small tips, and we'll continue to discuss about the virtual machine tomorrow. See, for example, I have created a VM, but I forgot the username and password of that VM. Okay, I missed to note it down, and I just want to kind of let me do one thing. Let me log out from this VMs. Okay, for an example, I want to log into this finance VM, but I don't know the username and password. Okay, so the minimum thing that you need to have is you need to have an Azure account. You have to log into this Azure account, and in general, they will be giving you permission. If you have permission to log into this, connect to this VM on the console, if you scroll down, you have the option to go and reset the password. And the advantage of doing this, you have the option to enter your own name. See, for example, if I want to enter Prabhu, or if I want to enter something, see, if I forget the username also, that is also fine. Okay, so what this is going to do is this particular action of reset password, it is going to create a new administrator with name Prabhu. It is not going to change the Stan account. The Stan account will remain same, but it is going to, if you are entering Stan here, it will reset the password of Stan. But if you are giving a new name, it will go and create a new administrator account with name Prabhu. Okay, so earlier, a few years back, if you don't know the username or password, we generally have to go and use some third-party boot CD or higher-end boot CD or something similar to that, and we go and reset the password, or we go and create a new account, all those things. But now things have changed in the cloud. it's very easy to reset the password or create a new administrator account from the console itself. Either you can do it like this, or you can also go to the run command option here. Okay, let this update get completed. So sometimes, like if you move to other screens, sometimes the action might not get completed. So what happens here, there are two things. Okay, so it needs a VM access extension in order to do the reset of the password. Okay, let me do this. Okay, let me go to, yeah, it's done now, successfully reset the password. Okay, so let me copy this IP address. Let me log in again. Now I can either go and log in with, I mean, if I know the username and password, I should not have done the reset password, right? But anyways, I'm going to use the new account which I've created. Instead of Stan, I'll be using the other account name, Prabhu. Okay, give me a second. Yeah. Okay, more choices. I'll use the new account that I've used. And it's a local account. We can join this account to the domain. We'll see all those things during the Active Directory session. We have an identity session, module 7 or 8, where we'll be discussing how to use Active Directory for integration. Either it is Windows Server AD or Azure AD. We'll see the integration later. Yeah. So now if you look at here, if I go and look at the local users, I should see a new name with name Prabhu. See, I have the new name Prabhu and Tan is also there. So it goes and creates a new account. If I know the username, then I can just give the username Stan and enter the password. So if you're going and adding a new name and giving reset password, then it will go and create a new account. And the advantage is that it will also get added to the local administrators by default. Okay, you get maximum privileges. You can go and change it. But in order for this to happen, you need to have an Azure account with necessary permissions. Without that, you will not be able to do it. And one more thing you need to understand, when you go and do such things, Microsoft Azure goes and installs an additional plugin, which you can see under the packages, under the C drive, under the packages. Just now it might have added a additional plugin at 6:41. See, now the time in US is 6:43 a.m. in East US, and at 6:41 a.m. it has added one more access agent. In order to go and create a new account or do something within the operating system, it will add additional plugin or account or package, and it will do the reset. Okay, so with this particular reset state command or with this enable disable command, that is how the Azure platform will gain access. It will have some exe files to run this script and to do the reset. It will have some executables, command line commands that will go and change it. So meaning that when you go and do something on the Azure platform, it also goes and changes your operating system. So it goes and adds some extension plugins here and makes things work. Okay, you have to be aware of these things. Okay, even though it is very small and thing, like working in a financial industry or a healthcare industry, they will be very concerned about the changes that is happening within the operating system, because you are going and adding a plugin to make some changes. And they, like for example, if they are doing some root cause analysis, they will ask you like why there is an additional plugin that got added, or why there is a change in the VM. So all those things will be tracked and you will have to answer it. So if you want to go and change something, you have to create a change request, properly do it, because this is changing something within the operating system, which is as per customer policy. It's not allowed without a proper change request. Okay, so don't take things for granted. Like the option is available here, if you do something here, it's not getting tracked within the operating system. It's not the case. Whatever you do here, the operating system also has those things getting tracked. Okay, make sure you know that. So there are many ways to do it. See, for example, even I can go and make the changes using this run command option. If I want to go and give me a minute, okay, I'll complete this, okay, and you can ask your question. We are also reaching the end of the session, right? You have enough time to ask questions now. Okay, so I can go and enable disable the account also. See, if I go and say enable admin account, this also makes use of the VM access extension, which I showed you now. See, if I look at here, under this access agent, you have that command here. This is the command, this is the script that is going to get executed. This is the Windows command script that will go and get executed if I go and click this option. So meaning there are some options which are dependent here. So I can go and run some PowerShell command even I can just go and say net user, what is the command, like for example, I want to add a user with name Suresh, and I can add it, and I can say India at 123 or whatever, and I can run this command. You can run some PowerShell script or some normal command. This is a command prompt command, right? If I want to go and create a user within the operating system, I can go to the command prompt and I can use either PowerShell or a normal command prompt to create something. So here I'm just going to say I want to create a user called Dinesh. I'm just going to create it like this, right? So same thing. Okay, access is denied. Okay, maybe I have some permission issues. I can run it as a admin. Okay. Okay, now I'm able to create it. So the same thing, whatever I'm running within the operating system, I can also execute from the Azure portal itself. So in order to do all these things, you need not log into the VM. If you want to make some changes, if you want to enable Windows Update, or if you want to check the IP address details, whatever you want to get, okay, if you want to reset the RDP certification or RDP port or some RDP settings, lot of options are available from the Azure console itself. You need not log into the VM. If you are a L1 engineer or a service desk team, or for some of the lower level skilled peoples, they can do most of the work from the Azure portal itself, Azure console itself, rather than logging into the VM. So logging into the VM, it adds unnecessary profiles, unnecessary changes to the system. So it's good to limit the number of logins to the system. So whatever you want to get details, like for example, I want to get the IP address and the details of the network configuration or RDP settings or whatever, most of the details are available in the Azure console itself. Okay, I can go and check whether my command executed successfully. So I can see that Suresh account, which I created from Azure portal, it's also listed here. Even I can go and check within my local users and groups. You can see that Suresh account should be there. Yeah, this is what we created from Azure console, right? So there are a lot of advantages. We'll get to explore all these options in the Azure virtual machine. We'll go through each of these options tomorrow. So now, based on what we have discussed at the very higher level, any questions on the Azure hierarchy, or any questions on resource group, resource lock, the resources? Any questions from anyone so far?
Yeah, Stanley, this Arun.
Yeah. Yes, Arun.
Like when is a good time that we can create the account? Like we have only 1 month time is available, right?
So from today onwards, we are going to get into practical approach. Okay. So I mean, maybe if you are planning to practice from next week, then you can create it next week only. Or if you are planning to start the practice from today along with me, then you can go ahead and create it today only. Because see, I have given you access to my earlier session recording also, right? So if in case you want to go before me and try to create something and explore something, feel free to do it. Okay, so the earlier the better. Okay, so if you delay yourself, it's going to delay your exploring option, right? So I would recommend to create right today only. Okay, start creating it, exploring it, and tomorrow again we'll start to explore more practical discussions on a virtual machine. You will have a lot of things to practice from now on. Maybe if you want to create it tomorrow morning, you'll get one more additional day. Okay, that might be an advantage. Yeah. But if you are busy this week for some official work, better go and create it next Saturday or something like that only. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Stan
But,
sir, this is Kelly
after
here.
one, yeah, sorry. After 1 month, it will expire, right? The free trial version.
Yeah, it's not going to expire. Your account will be valid. Only thing what you need to do is you have to convert it from your free tier category to pay as you go category. And after you convert it to pay as you go category, then you have to be little careful. Okay, the meaning little careful. You cannot create the non-free services. Okay, so whatever free services, for example, 750 hours, 250 GB of database, 5 GB of storage. If you are creating within that limit, even within the pay-as-you-go tier, you will not be charging. You will not be getting any consumption charge. But if you are creating beyond that, then you are going to get charged. This is applicable for 11 months after the first 30 days. Maybe you can say 12 months. You can go and explore the free tier category services.
Okay. So even we can use that also, right? 14,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the 14,500 is available only for the first 30 days. After the first 30 days, that 14,500 will become void. You cannot use it beyond 30 days. Only it is applicable. The $200 or the 14,500 rupees. It's applicable only for the first 30 days. Either you use it or not use it. This 14,900, 500 INR will become invalid after 30 days. Either you use it or not use it, it doesn't matter. So it will get closed out. Yeah, go ahead. The others who are started asking, please go ahead.
Stan sir, this is Giri.
Yes, Giri.
Will you be explaining the private key authentication?
Yeah. I'll show you. I'll show you Linux machine how to create a generate a public key and private key and use it for connection. Yes, I'll show you. No worries. Yeah, I'll show it.
Okay.
Yes, Stanley, one more thing. You told me to we can reset the password easily. Correct.
Yeah.
That means we can create a new account instead of old administrative account.
Correct.
But is there is no security on that, no? Then
no.
How we
So
if anybody knows the console for username password, then they can log in and.
Correct. So there are two things, Saravanan. One thing is you need to have a valid Azure account, number one. So without Azure account, you are not going to log in there. And you need to have access to subscription, number two. And you need to have access to that VM resource. You can control the access to specific VM. See, for example, here, there is an option to control the access, like a IAM option. So whoever has got admin access to this VM on the Azure console, only they will be able to reset password. That's the thing I told, right? With necessary permissions, if you have, you will be able to do it. Without necessary permissions, you cannot do it. You need to have access to the account. You need to have access to the subscription. You need to have admin access to the VM on the Azure level. Then only you will be able to do the reset password. There is no security breach there. Okay, but if you are not properly giving a role-based access control, if you are giving full admin access to L1 team or service desk, then your organization doesn't have a proper role-based access control. Then it's your fault, the customer's fault, and you cannot complain about the security breach there. So only level 3 or SME or people who are senior, they can have admin access on the Azure console level, so that only they can reset the password or change the user local administrator name as required.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, other people.
So the public IP is it's not static, right? It's dynamic, right?
Yeah, by default it's a dynamic IP, but if in case you want to reserve it, you can reserve it. I'll show you how to do that. Yeah.
Okay. If it is dynamic, when VM is powered off, that will not be consumed, right?
Yeah, it will not be consumed, but you have already, yeah, that's true. If you are going and purchasing a public IP, then either you use it or not use it, you have to pay for it. But if you are kind of powering off a VM with a dynamic public IP, then the public IP will be released and you need not pay for it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Janagiraman.
Go ahead, Tamarikanan. Yeah.
Bro, it's about subscription actually. I am trying with the new email ID with a new card, but with the same number, same mobile number, which I used for a different account earlier, which is expired.
It will not allow you. You have to use another mobile number. It saves the combination for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. Then I will try with a different number. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Janagiraman, please go ahead.
Yeah, the resource group, right? When I create the account, I can directly create the subscription and resource group. But after that, can be possible to create manager group? Only for
You can create management group anytime. Okay, so see, for
after
example,
that, I add the resource in that group, right?
Yeah.
The
You
resource
can add it. Yes. You can add it, move it, whatever you want to do it, you can do it. See, for example, I can create a management group now, and I can add the subscription or move the subscription to do whatever levels you want. Yes, this can be done later also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stanley Kanaraj here.
Yes, Kanaraj.
Yeah, actually, no, I have created a resource group and then I have removed it. But there is a one group in by default is a network watcher RG. Is it something different? Okay,
Yeah.
we
So
have to remove
yeah,
our.
by default, see, that's where we have to be clear on what we are enabling, right? See, whenever we go and create a virtual machine, there are a lot of options which get enabled by default. Under the networking, see, by default, they are asking us to select some options. So there might be some default selections where under the, see, for example, you are asking about something specific to management, I guess. So if you look at here, by default, it is enabling some of the options here. And if those options are getting added or enabled, it will go and create additional resources like network
Okay.
watcher or disk and all those things. Yes.
Okay, so we have to remove that as well.
Yeah,
Any
you can go and
possible.
delete it. Yeah, we can go and delete it. Yeah.
Okay. And the second question for a subscription, can I move to another account, one account to another account?
Okay, I'll explain that. See, that is, you need to understand some kind of Azure AD tenant also. There is one more
Okay.
concept which I need to explain you guys. I thought of explaining it during the Azure AD class. If I explain it now, there will be a lot of questions and confusion. People will get scared. Okay, I'll explain it. There is an option and there is a way how we can do it, but it will be covered during the Azure Active Directory class. So tenant is a kind of identity boundary, whereas subscription is a kind of resource boundary. So resources can be created using subscription. If you want to create identity or if you want to create users, password, user group and all those things, then you have something called tenant. I'll compare it
Okay.
later. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, thank you. No problem.
Stanley Bala here. So one thing is, as soon as you got the VM created, by default, it will be monitored and being reported to us, and also the performance logs are being enabled. And if so, like, do we have any kind of schedules or timelines? Anything be part of that, or it is supposed to be configured as of our own?
Yeah, by default, there are some basic monitoring that gets enabled. Okay, basic monitoring in the sense, for example, if you look at the console here, you are getting some kind of CPU, network, disk, and all those things. But if you need advanced monitoring, for example, some kind of memory related, paging related files or whatever, those things will not be available by default. So basic monitoring will be enabled by default, and you can see which are the metrics that are enabled. But if you want to have additional metrics or some chargeable metrics, if you add more metrics, and that will add more capacity consumption on the Azure platform, it will add more cost to your consumption. So you have to be very careful. So by default, for your question, basic monitoring is enabled by default. But if you need additional diagnostics information, or if you want some detailed memory dump, or if I need some detailed logs or crash dump, then it's something that you need to go and enable it. It's an additional cost. You have to create your own storage account. I'll cover this later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also by default, any email alerting mechanism being involved at the initial
Yeah,
level?
by default, the integrations might not be there, but you have to go and configure the alerts to be reported to a specific email address or to an alert action group. You can send an email address. So notifications are not enabled by default, but you can enable SMS, email notification as per
Okay.
your company's or personal requirement.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Stanley. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I know like we are 15 minutes
Can
over time.
we, one
Yeah, go
question,
ahead. Yes, please.
can we track the usage? The example you have created the VM. So what is the usage of particular VM?
Yeah, you will be able to understand the consumption. Okay, so it will take some time. Maybe there will be like 60 minutes, or there are some like kind of delay that will get reported, because it's reported or forecasted per hour, right? You will be able to get the cost per resource, or you will be able to understand the consumption. For example, if I want to get the resource by the resource group, I can go and check the specific VM utilization. Are you referring to the infrastructure monitoring or the cost monitoring?
Yeah, I'm referring to the both.
Okay, so if you're referring to the VM cost, so if you look at the demo VM1, it is going to consume me 216 rupees per month. You can see that here. And if I want to drill down in a different way, I want to customize it for daily run rate, or if I want to see it different ways, there are options to see it at the cost level. But if you're talking about the what do we call the resources. Just now I showed you, right? You have the overview under the monitoring. You can see what is the CPU consumption currently it is having, what is the network usage, what is the disk usage, memory usage, all those things will be available here. And it will be available for these many number of days. If you want to have custom duration, you can go and create a storage account and you can store it for longer window.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Vijay, last question from you.
Yes,
Yeah.
last question. So that's the same task, whatever you are doing in the GUI can be performed in the Azure shell, right?
Yes. Correct. You have a lot of different options. You can do it from Azure CLI, you can do it from Azure Cloud Shell, PowerShell, templates, third-party Terraform or toolsets, which we'll explore during module 16. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, team. I'm stopping the recording. Thank